Chapter 790. The two purple fist shadows collided. Although there was a huge gap between their realms, Yi Xian still had the King of Fighters' bloodline and strength, so he was not much weaker than his opponent. When the two fist shadows dissipated, the black-robed woman was shocked. This was a martial art technique that she had obtained from a high-grade inheritance during the Battle of Draconic Luck. Why did Yi Xian know it too? However, she could not care less. Heavenly fist puppets appear. The black-robed woman revealed another trump card. These were two puppets that she had obtained from the inheritance of the Heavenly Fist sect. Yi Xian suddenly became a 1 versus 3. Humph, I expected this. Yi Xian snorted in his heart. He had thought of this when he saw that his opponent was a woman. After all, the sixth prince had given him a piece of information. However, the Heavenly Fist sect restrained him because it was a fist technique that could injure him through the dragon-patterned golden armor. It was not a big deal to injure him, but he was afraid that the prince token would be accidentally broken and he would be eliminated. Therefore, it was better to retreat for the time being. Kid, you must be the sixth prince's trump card. In that case, I'll send you out first, the black-robed woman said with a smile. Then she and the two Heavenly Fist puppets attacked Yi Xian crazily. Yi Xian was beaten back bit by bit. However, from the corner of his eye, he discovered that his reinforcements had arrived. I'll help you, Gu Jian shouted, bringing a golden armored general with him as he charged over. The black-robed woman's expression changed when she heard that. Yi Xian alone was difficult enough to deal with. Now that he had a golden armored general and a 95% body seal expert, she was not a match for them. She immediately turned around and prepared to leave. Good chance. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. Forbidden Eye of Illusion. The black-robed woman trembled as she was hit by the illusion. However, to Yi Xian's surprise, the black-robed woman dispelled the Forbidden Eye of Illusion in an instant. How is this possible? How is her mental state so strong? Yi Xian was shocked. He wondered if the gap between their realms was too big. Since the Forbidden Eye of Illusion did not work, he would force her to stay. Firmament Fissure. Yi Xian frantically swung his sword, blocking the black-robed woman's path of retreat. Gu Jian had also arrived and attacked the black-robed woman. At the same time, under his control, he attacked the black-robed woman as well. The black-robed woman's face darkened. She knew that things weren't looking good. After thinking for a moment, she decided to use her trump card. Netherworld Escape. Immediately, the black-robed woman's speed skyrocketed. She immediately abandoned the two Heavenly Fist puppets and fled. Her speed was even faster than that of the Golden Armor General and Yi Xian. We can't catch up. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows and shouted at Gu Jian. Restrain the two Heavenly Fist puppets. Lone Sword was stunned for a moment. He immediately controlled the Golden Armor General to block one of the Celestial Fist puppets, while he personally blocked the other one. Yi Xian quickly rushed over and slapped the Heavenly Fist puppet on the top of its head. 10,000 Divine Thoughts Technique. Yi Xian's consciousness turned into thousands of clones and seeped into the Heavenly Fist puppet, forcibly erasing the black-robed woman's remnant consciousness. Now the Heavenly Fist puppet was under his control. The Heavenly Fist puppet originally emitted the black-robed woman's aura, but now it was Yi Xian's. Just as he was about to ask, he saw Yi Xian rush to the other Heavenly Fist puppet and forcibly take control of it again. Sensing that the two Heavenly Fist puppets were no longer under her control, the black-robed woman's face turned ashen as she shouted, Brat, I will make you pay for this. This time she really suffered a double loss. Not only did she consume some draconic luck, but she also lost two Heavenly Fist puppets that were at 95% sealed. What a blunder. You're lucky to have left quickly. Otherwise, I would have eliminated you. Yi Xian coldly snorted. He just happened to see the black-robed woman leave his line of sight. It was impossible to catch up with her. At this moment, Lone Sword asked in shock. You subdued the two Heavenly Fist puppets? Yes. Yi Xian nodded. Fortunately, the black-robed woman had just received the Heavenly Fist sect's inheritance, so she couldn't control the two Heavenly Fist puppets very well. Thus, he forcibly used the 10,000 Divine Thoughts technique to erase the remnant consciousness. Amazing, Lone Sword said in admiration. At this moment, Yang Qi also came over with a golden armored general and asked, Yixian, are you all right? I'm fine. That person is the black-robed woman under the 7th prince. I've checked her strength. She's indeed at body seal 100%. Yixian shook his head and said, as expected, she's at body seal 100%. Fortunately, they don't have the dragon-patterned golden armor. Otherwise, it would be difficult to deal with them. Yang Qi heaved a sigh of relief. He glanced at the two dumbstruck heavenly fist puppets and sighed inwardly that Yixian was really not an ordinary person. Yixian's strength was already very strong. Now that he had two heavenly fist puppets that he could store in his interspatial ring, he could do whatever he wanted here. Then, Yixian and Yang Qi returned to the city, while Lone Sword continued to wait outside the city with a golden armored general. After finding out about Yixian's gains, the 6th prince was overjoyed. However, he was in the middle of a great battle, so he couldn't leave the main city. Otherwise, he would definitely come over and give Yixian a big hug. Originally, he didn't have much confidence, but after this day, his confidence was bursting. The reason for this was because Yixian had made several great contributions. This time, he might be able to suppress the two princes and become the crown prince. At this moment outside the secret realm, a group of ministers watched the battle and were in an uproar. The 6th prince really has good foresight. This kid is only at body seal 80%, but he can actually fight against a body seal 100% expert. His future is limitless. Not only that, he even took in the two heavenly fist puppets. Did he cultivate the 10,000 divine thoughts technique? Previously, he obtained the Wolfang general's inheritance, so it's not surprising that he has the 10,000 divine thoughts technique. It's amazing that he learned it in such a short time. The ministers were full of praise for Yixian. Sitting on the dragon throne, the Flaming Sun Emperor narrowed his eyes. He seemed to be very optimistic about Yixian. However, the ministers outside could see that there were already two large armies gathering and advancing towards the 6th prince. The sky was starting to brighten. Today was the second day after the war started. No one knew if the 7th prince and the eldest prince would make a big move. Yixian, be careful. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen today. The 6th prince's voice came from the prince's command medallion. Yixian, who was standing on the city wall, used the Eye of Revelation to scan the area. When he heard this, he replied, yes. The 6th prince's main purpose was to guard against the 7th prince. That was why he was assigned to guard the checkpoint on the right. At midnight yesterday, they had taken over 3 resource points. After the war started, they took over 4 more. That was why they had an extra 500 soldiers. Don't underestimate these 500 soldiers. If there was no one guarding the checkpoint, these 500 soldiers would be enough to charge in. Chapter 791. Yixian, this is bad. The left checkpoint is under attack. There are at least 5,000 soldiers. Go and help them. The 6th prince exclaimed. What? Yixian was shocked. There were 5,000 soldiers? When the battle started, each side had a starting force of 1,500. Even if the first prince had taken over 6 resource points, he would only have 4,500 soldiers in total. However, there were now 5,000 soldiers. This meant that the first prince had used his dragon luck to exchange for a large number of soldiers. After all, they still had to defend their base. I'll go now. Yixian immediately replied. However, the next moment his Eye of Revelation saw something. He immediately opened his eyes wide and shouted to the 6th prince, 6th prince, there are also a large number of Wolfang cavalry at the right checkpoint. What? How many? The 6th prince asked in shock. Yixian paused for a few seconds and then reported, at least 4,000. Damn it, the first prince and the 7th prince are working together to eliminate me first. The 6th prince immediately reacted. The left checkpoint was under attack by 5,000 soldiers, while the right checkpoint was under attack by 4,000 soldiers. Although both checkpoints had 3,000 soldiers, they were under attack at the same time. 6th prince, should we all retreat to the main city? Yang Qi took out the 6th prince's token and asked. The 6th prince thought for a moment and said, no, if we lose the 2 checkpoints, the first prince and the 7th prince can attack at the same time. At that time, all the resource points will be taken. We won't have any chance of winning. Yang Qi, immediately lead a team to the left checkpoint. I will immediately exchange for some Wolf-Fang cavalry to support them. Yes. Yang Qi did not say anything else and left. Sixth Prince, there are also 4,000 soldiers here. Should we go out and fight? Yi Xian asked. I'll give you command of the right checkpoint. You take over. The Sixth Prince's voice came from the Sixth Prince's token. Now Yi Xian was the overall commander of the right checkpoint. It was up to Yi Xian to decide whether to fight or defend. Now that Yang Qi had left, Gu Jian was still waiting outside the city. Only he and Chief Zhuo were left on the city walls. They were just enough to control the 2 arrow towers. Attacking the city was not that easy. The reason why the 7th Prince's team had not attacked yet was because they were afraid of the 2 arrow towers. Yi Xian, what do we do now? Chief Zhuo asked with a frown. Chief Steward Zhuo, you guard the arrow tower. If they attack, use the arrow tower to attack. I'll go out of the city and meet up with Lone Sword. Then we'll go and spy on the enemy. Yi Xian replied. There were 4,000 soldiers here, representing the 7th Prince. Because each prince could only control 2 divisions, there were only 1,000 or so soldiers. Then be careful. Chief Steward Zhuo reminded. Yi Xian nodded silently. He went down the city wall and left through a secret passage. He first obtained it with Gu Jian, then went alone to spy on the military situation. I wonder how many golden armor generals the 7th Prince has sent over. Yi Xian guessed as he carefully sneaked over. The golden armor general was comparable to a physique-sealing realm master. Moreover, it was indestructible. It was almost invincible in the hidden territory. At first, the 6th Prince had 3 golden armor generals. Then he used his draconic luck to exchange for 2 more. Unfortunately, Yang Qi left with 2 divisions and 1 golden armor general. The other golden armor general was with Lone Sword. So there were no more golden armor generals on the right side of the checkpoint. There are too many soldiers. It's an advantage for me. Why don't I go and harass them first? Yi Xian planned. Of course, this was assuming that the enemy did not have a large number of experts. He snuck over and scanned with his eye of revelation. Sure enough, there were 4 living people. That black-robed woman is here too. The other 3 don't look strong. They're at most 90% physique-sealing realm masters. However, they brought 3 golden armor generals. Are they here for revenge? Yi Xian's heart trembled. The black-robed woman was at physique-sealing realm. The 3 golden armor generals were also at physique-sealing realm. There's no other way. I can only try. Yi Xian was also helpless. Even if the 6th Prince exchanged for a large number of soldiers, it would still take some time for them to arrive. It would be difficult to defend for more than an hour. If the 4,000 soldiers launched an all-out attack, it would take more than half an hour. Therefore, Yi Xian could only set an example and try to harass the enemy. Kill! Yi Xian immediately drew his Wolf-Fang sword. Draconic Fortune of the Universe. Firmament Fissure. His attack, enhanced by draconic luck, pierced through the air and instantly cut the 80% physique-sealing realm masters in half. In just a second, Yi Xian destroyed more than 10 Wolf-Fang cavalry soldiers. What? The black-robed woman, who was waiting for the order to attack, was shocked. She immediately understood that the enemy had sent someone to harass them. Find them! The black-robed woman shouted. At the same time, she flew out and controlled a golden armored general to rush in the direction of the commotion. Perception was greatly reduced in the secret realm. Therefore, the black-robed woman could not accurately pinpoint Yi Xian's location. She could only rely on the direction of her attack. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was harassing them without any rules. His plan was to kill as many people as he could. That black-robed woman is here. Good, heavenly fist puppets. Yi Xian released 2 heavenly fist puppets that he had just subdued. In fact, he was very reluctant to do so, but this time he had no choice but to sacrifice them. The 2 heavenly fist puppets directly charged into the Wolf-Fang cavalry army. Meanwhile, Yi Xian quietly left. His target was not the black-robed woman, but the other 3 controllers. As long as one of them was sent out of the secret realm, the army of 4,000 would be reduced to 3,000. The other 1,000 could only watch as no one controlled them. As Yi Xian ran, he used his insightful eye to observe. As expected, the black-robed woman was attracted. A physique-sealing realm master has left. The other 3 don't look strong. One of them is my old friend Xia Yuni. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. In the first round of the Battle of Draconic Luck, Xia Yuni was crippled by him, and then kicked out of the secret realm. After that, Xia Yuni received treatment and recovered from his injuries. At the same time, he also broke through to 90% physique ceiling realm. However, he was still vulnerable in front of Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian quietly sneaked over. He glanced at the black-robed woman in the distance and then suddenly attacked. Draconic Luck. Firmament Splitter. Several powerful attacks pierced through the air. Xia Yuni was startled. By the time he reacted, the attacks were already in front of him. Now that Yi Xian was at 80% physique ceiling realm and had a large amount of Draconic Luck, even if Xia Yuni broke through to 90% physique ceiling realm, he was still not his match. Fortunately, there were 2 long saber generals in front of Xia Yuni who were at 90% physique ceiling realm. After Yi Xian's attack split the 2 long saber generals in half, its power was less than half when it reached Xia Yuni. Chapter 792. Bam! Although the attack was less than half done, it still caused a lot of trouble for Xia Yuni. His hands were numb from the impact. At the same time, he recognized the attack. However, he did not associate the person who killed his grandson with the person who attacked him. After all, the person who killed his grandson was only at 45% physique ceiling level. He was as weak as an ant. Whoosh whoosh. Xia Yuni was sent flying, but he quickly controlled one of the golden armored generals to rush towards Yi Xian. What a pity that I didn't eliminate him directly. Yi Xian felt a little helpless. He quickly moved away from the spot. This time, the 7th Prince's team brought 4 golden armored generals. If he was surrounded, he would be in danger. Hence, he had to resort to guerrilla warfare. At the same time, the moment Xia Yuni stabilized himself, a voice came from his prince token. Attack! The voice belonged to the 7th Prince. He gave the order to attack the city at the same time to the black-robed woman and the others. Coincidentally, Yi Xian also heard it. They're attacking? He raised an eyebrow and quickly launched an attack. Even if he could not stop the entire army, he had to reduce some of them. The black-robed woman, who was about to cause trouble for the 2 heavenly fist puppets, stopped in her tracks when she heard the order. She immediately controlled the army to advance. However, even if she did not receive the order, she knew that she had been lured away. More than 3,000 Wolfang cavalry charged madly towards the right checkpoint. 6th Prince, the right checkpoint is attacking. Yi Xian quickly took out his prince token and reported. All right. The 6th Prince replied. Yi Xian's prince token could not be used by others. It had to go through the 6th Prince. The 6th Prince received the news and immediately notified Gu Jian and Chief Steward Shua. A huge battle broke out. At this moment, Yi Xian had already avoided the army. He circled around and attacked from the back. His attacks were very fierce. Every time he attacked, he would cut several Wolfang cavalry in half. The Wolfang cavalry in the secret realm could not be reassembled. 1 killed meant 1 less. Chief Steward Xia, find that kid. I'll attack the city. The black-robed woman shouted. All right. Xia Yuni replied. He also understood that the people who came to disturb them this time were very powerful, so he deliberately left behind a golden armored general and 2 long-blade deputy generals. However, in order to be safe, Yi Xian had already made a detour to the 2 heavenly fist puppets. He immediately put them away and then quickly concealed himself. Damn it, that brat ran away. This was Xia Yuni's first thought, but he didn't care so much. He directly led the golden armored general and the Wolfang cavalry to charge forward. Yi Xian was only here to harass them. There was no need for him to be so calculative. Attacking the city was more important. As long as they broke through a checkpoint, the 7th Prince would be able to move freely. Ignoring me and going to attack the city, Yi Xian's eyes flashed. The defensive power of the formation on the city gate was not bad. With the addition of Chief Shua's arrow tower, they should be able to hold on for a while. What he needed to do now was to clear the people out. At that moment, he stealthily approached Xia Yuni, who was lagging behind, and summoned the 2 heavenly fist puppets again. Kill! Yi Xian and the 2 puppets attacked from the rear. Ka! 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 A series of crisp sounds rang out. These were the sounds of the Wolfang cavalry being cut in half by Yi Xian. Behind, Xia Yuni had also guessed that Yi Xian would attack from the rear, so he had the golden armor general follow behind him, while he hid behind the Wolfang cavalry. The black-robed woman and the other 3 golden armor generals were already charging towards the right checkpoint. If they worked together, who knew how long the city gate would last? Thus, Yi Xian had to be dealt with quickly. Old man, you gave me a good beating that day. Now I'm going to collect some interest. Yi Xian controlled the 2 heavenly fist puppets and quickly broke through. His speed was so fast that Xia Yuni was stunned. Stop them! Xia Yuni controlled the golden armor general to meet them. However, Yi Xian immediately controlled the 2 heavenly fist puppets to block them, while he himself attacks Xia Yuni. A mere 90% sealed physique. Get out of here! Yi Xian shouted. A sword beam and a purple fist shadow blasted towards Xia Yuni at almost the same time. Xia Yuni's expression was gloomy. He did not have the ability to block these 2 attacks. Boom! The sword beam sent him flying, while the purple fist shadow smashed right in front of him. The prince's token shattered and he was sent flying out of the mystic realm. At this moment, he also saw the Wolfang sword in Yi Xian's hand and confirmed Yi Xian's identity. There were still hundreds of Wolfang cavalry around Xia Yuni, but without the prince's token's control, they would only attack the nearest person. Go! Yi Xian did not care too much. He directly sent the defenseless golden armor general flying, then recalled the heavenly fist puppets and quickly disappeared into the forest. The army of 4,000 was now down to 3,000. At the same time, the black-robed woman and 2 others had already rushed to the city gate, but Gu Jian swept out before them and intercepted them, preventing them from attacking the city gate. On the city wall, Chief Steward Zhuo looked at the densely packed figures under his command and controlled the arrow tower to attack crazily. Pooh! 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 The arrow tower swept wildly, shooting out dozens of arrows with extremely strong penetrative power in 1 second. These arrows could easily pierce through the armor of the Wolfang cavalry. Seeing the Wolfang cavalry crumble one by one, the black-robed woman was shocked. She did not expect the arrow tower to be so powerful. It could probably take out at least 10 Wolfang cavalry in 1 second. You guys, give me control of the golden armor general. I will go and blast open the city gate. The black-robed woman shouted. At this moment, there were still 3 golden armor generals. Including the black-robed woman, there were 400% sealed physique masters. Although the city gate's array was powerful, under the joint attack of 400% sealed physique masters, it would probably be broken in less than 5 seconds. Not good. Hearing this, Yi Xian's face fell. He immediately informed the 6th prince to let Gu Jian enter through the secret passage and take control of the arrow tower. There were a total of 2 city gates, so they had about 10 to 15 seconds to open the gates. Before that, Yi Xian had to clear out the Wolfang cavalry as quickly as possible. Found him, he's over there. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He immediately released 2 heavenly fist puppets. His target this time was still a person who had 90% sealed physique. This person's golden armor general had been taken away by the black-robed woman, so his defense was too weak. Yi Xian directly rushed in like a sharp knife. Leave the item and scram. Facing the murderous god Yi Xian, this person did not have the ability to change hands. He had his arm chopped off and the prince's token shattered. He turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. However, his mission had been completed. Even if he was chased out, the Wolfang cavalry would take the initiative to attack the surrounding enemies. Chapter 793. Yi Xian quickly took the interspatial ring. Unfortunately, the items in the interspatial ring could not help him break through. If that's the case, that's all I can do. In this situation, Yi Xian had only one option, and that was to break through. Only by breaking through would he be able to face 4 body seal experts by himself. Right now, other than the extra dragon pattern golden armor, his most precious things were the 2 heavenly fist puppets. Although the dragon pattern golden armor was precious, he had no other choice. He immediately devoured the dragon pattern golden armor. Not enough. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He quickly rushed over and devoured the 2 sky fist puppets as well. Ding! The host has broken through. Currently at 85% body seal. His realm had increased again. Yixian was able to fight the black-robed woman to a draw. Now that he had broken through, it should be no problem for him to defeat the black-robed woman. Haha. Don't even think about attacking the city. Yixian roared, and the Wolf Fang cavalry that were pouncing on him were sent flying. Complete annihilation. Yixian was no longer afraid of anyone. He charged directly at the black-robed woman. What? The black-robed woman, who was controlling the 3 golden armored generals to charge forward, suddenly felt something. She turned her head to look and discovered that Yixian was charging straight towards her. The Wolf Fang cavalry and the deputy general that were blocking the way were all easily dealt with by Yixian. However, the black-robed woman had already broken through the encirclement and reached the city gates. Her mission this time was to break through the checkpoint. As long as she could break through this checkpoint, it would be fine even if all the Wolf Fang cavalry were killed. However, now that Yixian had broken through, it would not be so easy to break through the checkpoint. Draconic Fortune. Firmament Fissure. Yixian launched an attack at the black-robed woman. Nether Spike. The black-robed woman turned around and stabbed with her sword. Bang! The two chi collided, and the shockwave disintegrated the Wolf Fang cavalry around them. My Eye of Illusion was useless against you back then. Now that I've broken through, have a taste of it. Yixian glared at him. The Eye of Illusion could be activated as long as one could see the other party's eyes. In the next moment, the black-robed woman's body trembled slightly. Although she had been on guard previously, she did not know how Yixian had attacked her, so she was hit again. Alright, Wolf Fang charge. Yixian thrust out his sword, and a giant wolf head pounced over, biting the black-robed woman. The interspatial ring is mine. Yixian hurriedly rushed over. Facing such a vicious woman, he would not show mercy. He immediately slashed out with his sword and chopped off the black-robed woman's wrist. At the same time, the 3 golden armored generals surrounded him and began to attack him. The golden armored generals were comparable to physique-sealing realm masters, but Yixian also had the dragon-patterned golden armor, so the 3 golden armored generals were no threat to him. 4 directions extermination. Get lost. Yixian suddenly unleashed a blast of energy around him, forcing the 3 golden armored generals to take 2 steps back. Then, he thrust his sword at the black-robed woman. The Eye of Revelation could not only see the environment in the black-robed woman's body, but also detect objects with spiritual energy, such as the prince's token. At the same time when Yixian thrust his sword, the black-robed woman came to her senses. She looked at the sword and immediately used her trump card. Nether Walk. The black-robed woman dodged the attack and immediately ran away while sticking close to the wall. This move again? Yixian's eyes widened. This martial art was too strange. The black-robed woman used this move to escape the last time. However, he had learned his lesson this time. He directly used the Eye of Revelation and the Devouring system to copy the information into the Devouring system. Ding! Copy of Nether Walk successfully. Learn. Yes, Yixian replied. Now that he had this martial art, it would not be a problem for him to catch up with the black-robed woman. However, just as he was about to give chase, he thought of a problem. If he left, the 3 golden armored generals would definitely break into the city. When that happened, the 3 golden armored generals would charge into the main hall of the checkpoint and destroy the dragon pillar. Then, the gate of the checkpoint would not be able to be closed. At the same time, the 7th prince would be able to leave the main city and move freely. The 1st prince, the 6th prince, the 7th prince, and even the 4th prince who did not make it into the top 3 had already achieved 100% physique sealing. They were very powerful and it would be troublesome if they were released so easily. After all, the 6th prince was the one who broke into the checkpoint, not the 7th prince. I'll let you go this time. Yixian finally decided to guard the checkpoint and not chase after the black-robed woman. He quickly took off the black-robed woman's interspatial ring and checked it. The Saintess of the Nether sect? Yixian raised his eyebrows. No wonder the 7th prince had so many elites supporting him. It turned out that he had a Saintess with him. However, if the Saintess was already at 100% physique sealing, then the sect leader should be at least at 100% physique sealing as well. He just did not know where the sect leader of the ghost cult was. Yixian did not care too much. He looked at the two armies fighting outside and quickly rushed out. The golden armored generals may be powerful, but they are not indestructible. Yi Xian thought to himself. If the golden armored generals were indestructible, then why would they need the Wolf-Fang cavalry to attack the city? They could just use their draconic luck to exchange for the golden armored generals. Why would they need so many soldiers? Firmament Fissure. Skyquake Fist. Nether Spike. Yi Xian grabbed a golden armored general and pressed it against the city wall, attacking it madly. The other two golden armored generals were also attacking him, but he took their attacks head-on. In 3 seconds, the golden armored general endured countless attacks. After 3 seconds it finally collapsed. Then Yi Xian spent some time dismantling the other two golden armored generals. Then he charged into the enemy army. Yi Xian, how is the checkpoint on the right? The 6th prince's voice sounded. It's defended. The 7th prince lost 3 golden armored generals. Yi Xian replied. At this point, he had already dismantled 3 golden armored generals. The 4th golden armored general was still in the forest tens of thousands of meters away. Because there were no enemies, they just stood there. What? The 6th prince was shocked again. Yi Xian actually dismantled 3 golden armored generals. This was too amazing. The 6th prince had used his draconic luck to exchange for the golden armored generals. The amount of draconic luck he used to exchange for the golden armored generals had made his heart ache for a long time. He did not expect that the golden armored generals could only be dismantled in front of Yi Xian. Your Highness, I suggest that we immediately attack the 7th prince. Yi Xian hurriedly said. All right. You will still be in command of the checkpoint on the right. The 6th prince immediately agreed. Understood. Yi Xian replied and continued to attack the Wolf-Fang cavalry. At this moment, his eye of revelation suddenly swept across a person. It was the last person on the 7th prince's side. Chapter 794. You want to run? Stay. Yi Xian controlled his only golden armored general and charged forward. Not long after, his opponent turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. The 7th prince's side had lost 1 person in the first round. When they entered the 3rd round, there were only 9 people left. Then when Yi Xian took over the resource point, there were only 8 people left. Now, other than the black-robed woman, the other 3 were all cleared out of the secret realm. Therefore, the 7th prince's side only had 4 people left. This was a good opportunity for a counterattack. Without a leader, the Wolf-Fang cavalry was like a sheet of loose sand. In less than a minute, they were completely annihilated by Yi Xian. Speaking of which, it was strange that the black-robed woman did not take the golden armored general with her. She was probably scared out of her wits and ran with all her might. In this way, Yi Xian benefited from it. After Yi Xian destroyed the 4th golden armored general, all of the troops were annihilated. As for the army that Gu Jian was hiding in the forest, they also suffered heavy losses. There were less than 200 of them left. His Highness the 6th Prince has already gone all out to reinforce the left side. Manager Zhua Gu Jian, you too defend the city. I will lead 1,000 soldiers to attack the 7th Prince. Yi Xian said to Manager Zhua and Gu Jian. Okay. Gu Jian and Manager Zhua nodded. By now they had witnessed Yi Xian's strength. Even if Yi Xian was alone, he could take down one of the checkpoints. After Yi Xian destroyed the 4th golden armored general, all of the troops were annihilated. As for the army that Gu Jian was hiding in the forest, they also suffered heavy losses. There were less than 200 of them left. His Highness the 6th Prince has already gone all out to reinforce the left side. Manager Zhua Gu Jian, you too defend the city. I will attack the city alone. Yi Xian said to Manager Zhua and Gu Jian. Okay. Gu Jian and Manager Zhua nodded. By now they had witnessed Yi Xian's strength. Even if Yi Xian was alone, he could take down one of the checkpoints. Yi Xian immediately left. This time, the 7th Prince had lost 4,000 soldiers and 3 members. It was a great loss. This was a good opportunity to beat the dog while it was down. With Yi Xian's current realm, he would probably be able to break through the city gate in 10 seconds. Then, he would charge into the main palace and destroy the dragon pillar. After leaving the right checkpoint, he used the netherworld escape that he had just learned and rushed toward the 7th Prince's main city. The nether escape was a quasi-supreme martial art that focused one's true chi on the feet. Although it was impossible to attack while running, it was very good for running. Oh! Yi Xian single-handedly led the entire battle. Not only did he annihilate 4,000 soldiers, but he also destroyed the golden armored generals. He was a monster. A monster, a monster. Although the golden armored generals are not controlled by anyone, it is not so easy to destroy them. He actually destroyed 4 golden armored generals. I'm afraid that only the 3 princes can fight against him now. Looking at his route, it seems like he's going to the 7th prince's territory. Is he planning to attack the 7th prince? He's really powerful. He single-handedly stopped 4,000 Wolfang cavalry. Now that he's going to attack the city alone, I feel like the other 2 gatekeepers are useless. The 7th prince and the eldest prince teamed up to eliminate the 6th prince, but they didn't expect Yi Xian to hold on to one of the checkpoints. I'm afraid the 6th prince won't win. The ministers continued to discuss. However, even the emperor didn't know when the 7th prince and the eldest prince had teamed up. Could it be that they had discussed this before entering the secret territory? 6th prince housed the checkpoint on the left. On the way to the 7th prince's territory, Yi Xian took out the prince medallion and asked, "It's not good." The 6th prince said, but in the next moment he exclaimed, "Not good, the gate on the left has been breached." What? Yi Xian raised an eyebrow. If the left gate was breached, then things would be troublesome. The eldest prince's army could directly charge into the main hall of the checkpoint and absorb the dragon luck on the soaring dragon pillar. That way, the gate wouldn't be able to be closed and the eldest prince would be able to move freely. After receiving the news from the poison matriarch, the 6th prince immediately ordered the poison matriarch to absorb the dragon luck on the soaring dragon pillar and bring everyone back to the main city. The left checkpoint couldn't be taken anymore. With one of his front teeth broken, the eldest prince's army could directly charge into the main city. Not only that, but the eldest prince also ordered Yang Qi to head to the main city to guard it because the eldest prince was going to personally lead the battle. 6th prince, should I return? Yi Xian hurriedly asked. No need. Once the poison matriarch destroys the soaring dragon pillar, I will be able to leave the main city. At that time I will teach these people a lesson. The 6th prince said angrily. The one that had been broken through was the 1st prince, and the one who had broken through this barrier was the 1st prince. Thus both he and the 1st prince could move freely. However, the eldest prince was still far away in his main city, so the 6th prince was waiting for the poison matriarch. As long as the soaring dragon pillar was destroyed, he would immediately head to the left checkpoint and join the battle. 6th prince, if I break through one of the 7th prince's checkpoints, the 7th prince will be able to move freely. At that time he will join forces with the eldest prince. Won't our main city be in danger? Yi Xian asked. No, they don't have many experts left. Given your strength, if you can breach the checkpoint, then you have the ability to breach the main city. Once the checkpoint is breached, he will be able to move freely, but he won't dare to leave the main city. The 6th prince replied. Since that's the case, I will attack the city at full speed. Yi Xian couldn't care less and headed straight for the 7th prince's territory. With his strength, only the 3 princes would be able to stop him in the entire area of the siege battle. However, the 7th prince's attack on the right checkpoint failed, so he couldn't move freely. Hence Yi Xian could at least take down one checkpoint. At the same time at the left checkpoint. Boom! With a loud sound, the soaring dragon pillar on the left checkpoint of the 6th prince's camp was destroyed by the poison matriarch. Then, the poison matriarch led her men and the golden armored general to escape, leaving the 3,000 Wolfang cavalrymen behind to block the enemy's advance. 6th prince, you can move freely now. The moment the soaring dragon pillar collapsed, the 6th prince heard a voice. It was Eunuch Wu's voice. At that moment he directly charged out of the main city and charged towards the left checkpoint. His speed was much faster than Yi Xian's, who was currently using the netherworld escape. This was an existence that was almost invincible amongst half-step sovereigns. Chapter 795. After the left checkpoint was breached, the 1st prince's army chased after the 3,000 Wolfang cavalry. When the 3,000 Wolfang cavalry were wiped out, the 1st prince's army retreated, leaving the sixth prince with nothing to show for it. They retreated as expected. They're saving up their strength. Next time we'll launch an all-out attack. The sixth prince gritted his teeth in anger. With one of his two front teeth missing, the enemy would be able to pass through this checkpoint and come and go as they pleased. The other front tooth would probably be pulled out soon as well. This was bad news. Right now, the sixth prince could only pray that Yixian's attack would succeed. At that time, the seventh prince would be pinned down by Yixian, while the sixth prince could focus on dealing with the first prince. An hour later, Yixian, who was using the nether escape to travel, finally arrived in front of the seventh prince's checkpoint. He scanned the area with his eye of revelation and found that there were only 2 people on this checkpoint. That black-robed woman didn't come back. Is she afraid that I'll kill her halfway and then go to the other checkpoint? Yixian narrowed his eyes. But it didn't matter. The arrow towers are powerful, but they haven't discovered me yet. I can charge straight to the city gates. With that thought, Yixian charged out. Firmament Splitter, Netherworld Spike, Skyquake Fist. Yixian also used all of his killing moves. When the formation on the city gate was attacked, a loud rumbling sound immediately rang out. Someone's attacking the city. The 2 people on the city walls cried out in alarm. But when they poked their heads out, they found that there was only one person attacking the city. It's him. Quick, informed the 7th prince. The 2 of them recognized Yixian. After all, they had just received news from the 7th prince that their side had suffered a crushing defeat. But it was useless to inform the 7th prince because the dragon pillar was not destroyed. The 7th prince could only watch over the main city and not come out. First, destroy the first checkpoint, then go around to the second checkpoint and destroy the dragon pillar. This was Yixian's plan. As long as they went around it, they would be able to reach the main hall where the dragon soaring pillar was located. The reason why the first prince's army didn't go was probably because they wanted to leave this checkpoint to the 7th prince. It could also be because the 6th prince had already killed his way out. The first prince was afraid that the 6th prince would kill all of his soldiers, so he retreated. Boom! Amidst a loud sound, Yixian spent 6 seconds to break through a city gate. The formation on the city gate was stronger than he had imagined, but it didn't matter. He only needed to spend another 6 seconds to break through the second city gate. Not good, he broke through the city gate, let's go. The 2 warriors on the city wall immediately left. This checkpoint did not even have a single golden armored general, only 2 long saber deputy generals. Even the Wolffang cavalry only had 500 men. How could they defend it? Boom! 6 seconds later, the second gate collapsed as well. Yixian charged into the main hall of the checkpoint and destroyed the dragon pillar. Sixth Highness, we've broken through a checkpoint. Yixian hurriedly reported to the 6th prince. Good. I'll leave the other checkpoint to you. The 6th prince replied. Without further ado, Yixian quickly rushed to the 7th prince's other checkpoint. As long as 2 of the 7th prince's front teeth were destroyed, the 7th prince would not dare to leave even if he could. Dare to leave? Be careful of the main city being ambushed. Yixian believed that he was fast enough, but before that, he had to send the 7th prince's 2 subordinates out of the secret realm first. With the Eye of Revelation, he found a secret passage in the checkpoint and dealt with the 2 experts who had reached 85% body seal realm. Meanwhile, in the 7th prince's main city, 7th Highness, you can now move freely. Eunuch Wu's voice fell into the 7th prince's ears. How could this be? That damned Yixian defeated my 4,000-strong army all by himself and even broke through my checkpoint. Just who is he? The 7th prince muttered to himself. Although he really wanted to rush out, find Yixian and beat him up, he did not dare. What if Yixian was different from what he thought? What if Yixian didn't go to the other checkpoint and instead hit around the main city and suddenly attacked the city when he was out? Once the main city's soaring dragon pillar was destroyed, he would be eliminated. Damn it, I only have 3 people I can use now. The 7th prince cursed. He had lost 1 person in the first checkpoint, so he only had 9 people left in the third checkpoint. One of the resource points had been ambushed by Yixian, and 3 of the 4,000-strong army had been lost in the siege. Now that the 2 guarding the city had been eliminated, including the black-robed woman, he only had 3 people he could use. 3 people at most could control 3,000 Wolfang cavalry. Including the 7th prince himself, it would only be 5,000. At this time, after sending the 7th prince's 2 people out of the secret territory, Yixian quickly rushed to the 7th prince's other front tooth. As a precaution, the 7th prince had ordered the 2 people above to retreat to the main city. Now the checkpoint was an empty city. Therefore Yixian easily destroyed the soaring dragon pillar. Now that the 7th prince's 2 front teeth had been removed, he could only stay in the main city and defend it. 6th prince, both checkpoints have been destroyed. Yixian reported again. Good, we have now withdrawn our troops to the main city. You can stay in the wilderness and wait for orders, the 6th prince replied. Yixian nodded silently. Now he analyzed the situation. On the eldest prince's side, they had only lost 1 person. Both checkpoints were still there, but because they had destroyed one of the 6th prince's checkpoints, he could move freely. On the 7th prince's side, both checkpoints had been destroyed, so he could only defend the main city. Although the 6th prince had only lost 1 checkpoint, he had gathered his troops and retreated to the main city. All in all, the eldest prince had the greatest advantage. Now they could only wait and see. They could only wait for the resource site to spawn at midnight. The eldest prince has too much of an advantage. I'll go to his side and scout. If I see anyone traveling alone, I'll send them out. Yixian thought for a moment, then rushed to the 6th resource point that the 1st prince occupied before the resource point was refreshed. Yixian, you have to be careful. You're the only one outside. Since the eldest prince has broken through our checkpoints, he can personally take action. The 6th prince reminded him. Now he could only rely on Yixian. As long as Yixian could reduce the eldest prince's troops, they would have a fighting chance. It was close to midnight, but there was no one at the 6th resource site. This made Yixian feel strange. Could it be that the eldest prince has sent people to the 7th prince and 6th prince's resource sites? Yixian guessed. But at this moment, a figure entered his line of sight. Someone had finally arrived. He doesn't look strong. Kill him first. Chapter 796. The other party had not noticed Yixian yet. Suddenly there was a whistling sound in the air. Whoosh! The person was shocked. He turned around and saw a giant wolf head pouncing at him with its mouth wide open. However, just as he was about to retaliate, Eye of Illusion! Yixian glared at the other party. The other party fell into an illusion and was bitten by the giant wolf head made of true qi. The excruciating pain pulled him back to reality. Firmament Splitter. Nether Spike. Yixian immediately attacked. One attack was responsible for cutting off the other party's hand, while the other was responsible for shattering the prince's token. Rip. Crack. The man in black was pierced through together with the prince's token. He turned into a streak of white light and flew out of the secret realm, leaving behind half of his arm. Yixian quickly rushed over and collected the interspatial ring. However, he found something interesting in the interspatial ring. What's going on? He's from the Nether cult too? Yixian was shocked. The person he attacked earlier was on the 1st prince's side, but he also had the token from the Nether cult. What was going on? Could it be that the Nether cult was not only supporting the 7th prince, but also the 1st prince? No wonder the 1st prince and the 7th prince are working together. Yixian's eyes gleamed. Now there were only 8 people on the 1st prince's side. He immediately occupied this resource point and rushed to the next one to see if he could find a second person. Unfortunately, the second resource point had already been occupied. Yixian did not see anyone. Forget it. I'll give up on this resource point. With my level, it doesn't matter how many Wolfang cavalrymen there are. Yixian decided to give up and went straight to the 1st prince's checkpoint. What he needed to do now was to scout the situation and see how many people were guarding the checkpoint. Half an hour later, Yixian arrived at the 1st prince's checkpoint. He scanned it with his eye of revelation. There were 3 people guarding this checkpoint. At the same time, Yixian also noticed that there were 3,000 Wolfang cavalry and 2 golden armor generals at this checkpoint. They aren't very strong, but I wonder if the 1st prince is among the 3. Yixian narrowed his eyes. His eye of revelation could see through a person's body, but he could only tell if the person was a man or a woman. However, in the next moment he reacted. The first prince isn't among the three. That's because the Sunflame Imperial family cultivates the Heavenly Imperial technique and conceal the draconic fate in their bodies. Since my insightful I can see the circulating true qi, I can definitely see the draconic fate as well. Yi Xian suddenly recalled the enormous amount of draconic luck in the sixth prince's body, so he deduced that the first prince was not among the three. Since that was the case, he would try to attack the city. Sixth Highness, I'm currently at one of the Crown Prince's checkpoints. I feel like I can give it a try. Should I attack? Yi Xian asked. The first prince can move freely now, and his strength is unfathomable. I'm afraid he's even stronger than me. Be careful. The sixth prince reminded. All right. Yi Xian nodded and immediately charged out. Under the night sky and with his extreme speed, he was already in front of the city gates before the other party noticed him. Firmament Splitter. Nether Spike. Skyquake Fist. Yi Xian began to attack the city gates. Not good, someone is attacking the city. The people on the city walls reacted, but it was useless. Yi Xian only needed 6 seconds to break through a city gate. Boom! One of the city gates collapsed. Although the people on the city walls wanted to control the arrow towers, they couldn't shoot at the city gates, so they could only watch. Go, let's retreat quickly. When the three people on the city walls saw Yi Xian destroy a city gate in 6 seconds, they were scared witless. If the two generals worked together to attack the city gates, they would need at least 10 seconds. However, Yi Xian only needed 6 seconds. Boom! The second city gate collapsed. Yi Xian immediately rushed over and killed his way into the secret passage, kicking the three first princes' subordinates out of the secret realm. After that, he went to destroy the Soaring Dragon Pillar. If the Soaring Dragon Pillar at the checkpoint was not destroyed, the city gate could be repaired. Unfortunately, Yi Xian wouldn't give it a chance to repair. Crack! Yi Xian slashed the Soaring Dragon Pillar with his sword, causing it to crack and shatter into pieces. Now the first prince had one of his front teeth pulled out. Although he could move freely, he was probably on his way to the main city. Sixth prince, we've broken through the checkpoint. Yi Xian reported. That's great. The sixth prince was surprised and delighted. Yi Xian had brought him too many surprises. If not for Yi Xian, he would have been eliminated from this siege. Sixth prince, I'll go to the first prince's main city to take a look, Yi Xian said. He had the Eye of Revelation, which was very useful for spying. If the first prince wasn't in the main city, he wouldn't mind attacking alone. As long as the Soaring Dragon Pillar was destroyed, the first prince would be eliminated, and the rest would be simple. At the same time, in the Imperial Palace outside the secret realm. This kid is really daring. How does he know that the first prince isn't in the checkpoint? Maybe he's just trying his luck. After all, the sixth prince has retreated to the main city. If the first prince's checkpoint isn't broken, the first prince can wander around and put a lot of pressure on the sixth prince. Oh, he's going to the main city. Is he going to defeat the first prince in one fell swoop? I don't think so. Although the first prince isn't here, there are still experts and 5 golden armor generals in the main city. This kit probably won't be able to break through. Not necessarily. The first prince is in danger this time. If the checkpoint is broken through, the first prince will be eliminated. The ministers were still discussing. Now the siege battle had reached its climax. The 3 princes could move freely, but they didn't dare to go out recklessly. The only first prince who was wandering outside was the first prince. Yi Xian had broken through the checkpoint and rushed straight to the main city, so he was also rushing back at full speed. In fact, when he found out that the expert with the 95% physique seal level had been eliminated, he realized that something was wrong. Therefore, when Yi Xian broke through the checkpoint, he was also about to reach the next checkpoint. However, Yi Xian still rushed ahead of the first prince and arrived in front of the first prince's main city. He scanned with the Eye of Revelation and found that there were only 3 people inside. He had killed 2 of the first prince's subordinates in the wilderness and 3 more at the checkpoint. Logically speaking, there should be 5 people left. However, there were only 3 people in the main city, which meant that there were 2 people outside, probably at the other checkpoint. Fortunately, Yi Xian's Eye of Revelation didn't look at people with draconic luck. In other words, the first prince wasn't here. Since he wasn't in the main city, things would be easier. Chapter 797. If the eldest prince isn't here, then this is a good opportunity. Among the three factions, the eldest prince is the strongest. If we can eliminate him, then the sixth prince will definitely win. Yi Xian's eyes lit up, but he still asked for the sixth prince's opinion. Although the sixth prince did not understand how Yi Xian was so sure that the eldest prince was not in the main city, he chose to believe him. After receiving the sixth prince's approval, Yi Xian's morale soared. This time he was going to attack the main city. Come on! Yi Xian shouted in his mind as he charged toward the main city's gates. The main city's gates were much stronger than the gates of the checkpoints, but Yi Xian knew that he would be able to break in if given enough time. Firmament Fissure. Skyquake Fist. Nether Spike. Before Yi Xian even got close, he had already launched a frenzied attack. When the loud noise echoed, the gatekeepers on the main city's walls noticed Yi Xian. Someone's attacking the city. Their expressions changed drastically as they hurriedly notified the eldest prince with their prince tokens. However, the eldest prince was still on his way, so they had to defend the main city. The main city could not be breached, or the eldest prince would be eliminated. At this moment, a middle-aged man in black on the main city's walls had a dark expression. He thought to himself, "Is this the brat that our leader warned us to be careful of? Why does this brat know the nether spike of our nether spike?" He could not figure it out, but he did not care. He turned around and said, "The two of you stay here. I'll bring the 5 golden armored generals to deal with this brat." With that, he turned around and left. There were still 5 golden armored generals in the main city. This time he brought all of them with him. Yi Xian was still attacking the city gate, but at this moment, 6 figures suddenly appeared from the side. Have they come out of the main city's secret passage? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He was shocked to find that 5 of the 6 figures were golden armored generals. The last human was also at 100% physique ceiling. Now it was 1 against 6. Good timing! Yi Xian shouted. These 6 physique ceiling experts were the main city's last fighting force. As long as they were taken care of, the eldest prince would lose. Brat, stop it! The middle-aged man in black shouted as he stabbed his sword at Yi Xian. Whoosh! The sword light flashed and Yi Xian easily dodged it. However, he recognized this move. Nether Spike. As I thought so, the eldest prince is related to the Nether Spike. Yi Xian's eyes suddenly opened wide as he retaliated. Whoosh! It's Nether Spike. Estes Nether Spikes STS. Although the black-clothed middle-aged man didn't understand how Yi Xian learned the Netherworld Thorn, it wasn't the time to care about this right now. He struck out with his palm, and a huge palm print smashed towards Yi Xian. It seemed that the power of the palm print was even stronger than the Heavenly Fist Sex inheritance, the Heaven-Shaking Fist. Ding! Copy of the Netherworld Palm successfully. Do you want to learn it? Yes. Yi Xian replied in his mind. Ding! Host has learned the Nether Spike. Yi Xian immediately followed up with a palm strike. Nether Spike. Boom! The 2 huge palm prints collided and then dissipated one after another. What? You even know the Nether Spike? The middle-aged man in black was shocked again. Meanwhile, the 5 golden armored generals surrounded Yi Xian and slashed their swords at Yi Xian. Humph! Soulless puppets, get lost. 4 directions annihilation. With a series of crisp sounds, the 5 golden armored generals were all forced back several steps by the powerful impact. In this situation, Yi Xian actually had 3 choices. First, he could capture the leader and clear the middle-aged man in black out of the secret realm. Second, he could kill the 5 golden armored generals. Third, he could destroy the array on the city gate while fighting. Yi Xian thought for a while and made his decision. The middle-aged man in black was only slightly stronger than the woman in black, and the 5 golden armored generals were no threat to him. After all, he was wearing the dragon-patterned golden armor, so he decided to break the city gate first. Dragon Fortune. Firmament Fissure. Yi Xian attacked the city gate while dodging the middle-aged man's attacks. As long as the city gate was broken, he would not need to fight the 5 body seal masters. He could just rush in and destroy the soaring dragon pillars. Damn brat, go and guard the gate. The middle-aged man in black cursed in his mind and immediately sent 2 golden-armored generals to guard the city gate. However, this was of no use. Although the city gate was important, the golden-armored generals would still be destroyed in this siege. So Yi Xian could only carry out the second and third plan at the same time. Boom! 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 The 2 golden-armored generals stood guard outside the city gates. Facing Yi Xian's attacks, they found it difficult to defend. However, Yi Xian's speed was extremely fast. Attacks would still land on the city gates and destroy the city protection array. Bastard, the eldest prince will be back soon. If you have the guts, continue. The middle-aged man in black shouted. Yi Xian's heart trembled when he heard that. He did not know if the middle-aged man was telling the truth. Now that the main city was under attack, the eldest prince was definitely on his way back. He just did not know when he would arrive. The middle-aged man might be bluffing when he said that. But if the eldest prince really did come back, he would be like a cornered beast. Although the eldest prince was also a body seal master, the imperial family members all cultivated the heavenly imperial technique. The heavenly imperial technique was a paragon martial technique, and its combat power was outstanding. Coupled with the dragon fortune, he was no match for it. If he was forced out of the secret realm, the 6th prince would definitely lose. I don't believe it. With victory in sight, Yi Xian decided to take a gamble. If he could get rid of the eldest prince, the victory would belong to the 6th prince. Damn it, this kid is not doing anything. The middle-aged man in black cursed in his heart. He did not know where the eldest prince was and how long it would take for him to arrive. He was also afraid that he would not be able to defend the main city. At that moment, Yi Xian's eyes suddenly widened. The Eye of Illusion. The middle-aged man in black was thinking about something else and was instantly immersed in the illusion. But his mental state was extremely high, and he immediately reacted. This middle-aged man is stronger than the saintess of the Nether cult. Could he be the leader of the Nether cult? Yi Xian could not help but mutter to himself when he saw the Eye of Illusion disappear in the blink of an eye. He originally wanted to end the battle with the Eye of Illusion, but he did not expect it to be dispelled in an instant. It seemed that he could only continue to attack. Rumble. Loud sounds echoed as Yi Xian dodged and attacked at the same time. A few seconds later, Kacha, one of the golden-armored generals guarding the city gate, suddenly disintegrated. Chapter 798. Now, only 4 of the 5 golden-armored generals were left. In order to defend, the middle-aged man in black had no choice but to deploy another golden-armored general. TSK. Let's see how long you can last. Yi Xian sneered. He was faster than the middle-aged man in black. At the same time, he had the dragon-patterned golden armor, so the middle-aged man in black could only attack him with palm techniques. Palm techniques were generally slower than sword techniques, so Yi Xian had not been hit by a single attack yet. He felt that if he was given another 10 seconds, he would be able to destroy the main city gate. A few seconds later, Kacha, the second golden-armored general, disintegrated. There were only 3 golden-armored generals left. The middle-aged man in black had a gloomy expression. He watched as Yi Xian's attacks landed on the main city gate, but he could not do anything. Not only that, but his danger level had also increased. Now that I have a golden-armored general to help you, let's see how you can stop me. Yi Xian shouted and suddenly turned to attack the middle-aged man in black. Firmament Fissure. Wolf-Fang Charge. Nether Palm. The middle-aged man in black realized that he was in trouble. If he was knocked out, the city gate would fall. Nether Escape. The middle-aged man in black quickly used his trump card to escape. However, Yi Xian did not chase after him. Instead, he quickly swept toward the 2 golden-armored generals guarding the city gate and gave them a good beating. Kacha. The 3rd golden-armored general disintegrated. Then Yi Xian hurriedly attacked the city gate again. Bastard, if the leader doesn't come back soon, the main city will be breached. The middle-aged man in black had no choice but to go back and try to stop Yi Xian. At this moment, boom! Suddenly there was a loud noise. The formation on the main city gate was broken, and the city gate was directly destroyed by Yi Xian's palm. The middle-aged man in black became nervous. There were 2 main city gates in total. There was another one at the end of the city wall passage, but one had already been destroyed by Yi Xian. There was nothing he could do. If the crown prince did not return during this time, they would lose. Haha! Yi Xian laughed 3 times when he saw the main city gate collapse. He sent a nearby golden-armored general flying with a swing of his sword and then rushed in. As long as they could break through this door, victory would be the 6th prince's. Once the 6th prince became the crown prince, the benefits would definitely be great. Breaking through to the supremacy realm would be just around the corner. However, right at this moment, "I'll be right there. How's the situation?" Suddenly, a strange voice fell into Yi Xian's ears. Yi Xian turned his head and saw that the prince's writ in the arms of the black-clothed middle-aged man was glowing. This voice belonged to the 1st prince. Damn it, the 1st prince is about to arrive. Yi Xian's heart trembled. Could it be that he had to give up on this door and leave? "Your Highness, he has already broken through one of the city gates." The black-clothed middle-aged man hurriedly replied. "I'll be there in 5 seconds. The eldest prince's words made Yi Xian completely give up. He wouldn't be able to break through this main city gate in 5 seconds. If the 1st prince were to return, he might be stuck in the passageway leading to the city wall. "Let's go." Yi Xian didn't dare to dawdle. He immediately used the netherworld escape and rushed out of the passageway leading to the city wall. While using the netherworld escape, he could only gather his true energy under his feet and couldn't attack. Thus, he brushed past the black-clothed middle-aged man. "What? Netherworld escape?" The black-clothed middle-aged man was shocked once more. He was beginning to suspect that Yi Xian had infiltrated the ghost cult. Otherwise, how could he know the ghost cult's secret techniques? Damn it, I must stop him. The black-clothed middle-aged man also used the netherworld escape and followed closely behind Yi Xian. In truth, Yi Xian was still a little unwilling to give up. He couldn't be scared off by the 1st prince's words. Thus, he wanted to wander around the forest and see if the 1st prince would appear in 5 seconds. If he didn't, he would quickly return to attack the city. If the 1st prince really did appear, he would quickly leave, hide, and wait for the next attack. However, he was right to give up on attacking the city. In less than 5 seconds, the 1st prince appeared in front of the city gate. However, Yi Xian was using the Eye of Revelation. Thus, the 1st prince didn't discover him. He only saw the remains of the 3 golden-armored generals. In the secret realm, one's perception would be greatly reduced. 5 seconds was definitely enough for Yi Xian to get away from the 1st prince. Fortunately, I left quickly. Otherwise, I would have to face the 1st prince. Yi Xian's heart trembled. In fact, he really wanted to fight the 1st prince. Although the 1st prince practiced the Paragon martial technique, Yi Xian had the Eye of Revelation. However, so what if Yi Xian learned the Paragon martial technique? He didn't dare to use it in the secret realm. After all, there were many officials watching outside. Even the Sunflame Dynasty Emperor was present. If he dared to use it, he would definitely be hung up and interrogated. He might even harm the 6th prince. Moreover, the 1st prince knew the Paragon martial technique. His strength was extraordinary. Otherwise, why would he restrict the movements of the 3 princes? Thus, Yi Xian couldn't take the risk. This guy keeps chasing me. The 1st prince might follow. No, I have to stop him. Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He suddenly stopped in his tracks. In the next moment, his true energy started to burn rapidly. Dragon Fortune, Firmament Fissure, Wolf Fang Rush, Nether Palm. Yi Xian attacked crazily. The black-clothed middle-aged man who used the nether escape was extremely fast. However, he was still hit by the nether palm. If it was any other time, Yi Xian would definitely follow up with another attack. However, this was a critical moment. The 1st prince had already noticed the commotion caused by the palm strike. He had to leave. Nether escape. Yi Xian quickly fled. The black-clothed middle-aged man was hit by the nether palm. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was heavily injured by the palm strike. At the same time, he lost sight of Yi Xian. Not long after, a figure flew over. It was the 1st prince. "Are you all right?" The 1st prince asked with a frown. "I'm fine. I just lost him." The black-clothed middle-aged man shook his head. "Forget it." The 1st prince looked ahead. Fortunately, he had made it back in time. If he had been half a minute later, he would have been eliminated. Although the three princes could move freely now, they were all pinned down. The three princes were basically guarding the main cities. However, the sixth prince had Yixian as his trump card. In this secret realm, Yixian had no opponents other than the three princes. Outside the secret realm, the entire palace was in an uproar. This is too exciting. If the first prince had been a little slower, that kid would have broken through. Yeah, that kid is too monstrous. Even without the dragon-patterned golden armor, he could have taken down the city alone. The first prince can't move around freely now. If that kid finds an opportunity to break through the city and destroy the soaring dragon pillar, the first prince will lose. Chapter 799. Now all the officials' attention was on Yixian. After all, Yixian had led the entire siege. The princes who had lent their dragon's luck to the sixth prince were livid when they saw the first prince and the seventh prince jointly attacking the sixth prince. Now they were relaxed because the sixth prince was the one who had the highest chance of winning. If the sixth prince became the crown prince, they, as the sponsors, would be able to gain many benefits. At the same time, the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty Emperor was also smiling as he thought. Now the seventh prince doesn't have enough troops and the first prince is pinned down. How is the sixth prince going to deal with this? He didn't expect this siege to be so exciting. It was even more intense than the battle decades ago. Thinking back, he had also stood out from the other princes and become the crown prince. After evading the first prince, Yixian didn't leave immediately. Instead, he quickly ran toward the first prince's other checkpoint. The first prince had 5 people on his side and 3 in the main city. Then there might be 2 more at the other checkpoint. As long as those 2 were dealt with, the first prince's 2 front teeth would all fall out, just like the 7th prince. Soon, Yixian arrived at the unbroken checkpoint. At this time, this checkpoint was already empty. The first prince had already ordered his troops to leave. Yixian didn't hesitate and quickly destroyed the soaring dragon pillar. Now, other than the 6th prince, who still had a barrier, the 7th prince and the eldest prince were both gone. 6th prince, what should I do now? After breaking through the second checkpoint, Yixian quickly returned to the first prince's main city, and then to the 6th prince. Yixian, you hold the first prince back. Tomorrow, I will send troops to the 7th prince and eliminate him. The 6th prince replied. Okay. Yixian replied. In terms of military strength, the 6th prince didn't have many Wolffang cavalry left. However, he still had 9 people who had been eliminated from the start. Thus, he could directly control 9,000 soldiers. 3 of the first prince's subordinates were in the main city, while the other 2 were in the wilderness. No one knew where they were stationed. At the same time, 4 golden armored generals were also damaged. There were only 4 people left on the 7th prince's side. Adding them all together, they had at most 4,000 soldiers. There was nothing to fear. Today, Yixian had only occupied 1 resource point. The other 9 were divided between the first prince and the 7th prince. But now that Yixian was guarding the first prince's main city, the first prince couldn't send anyone out. So if they wanted to occupy the resource points, they could only rely on the 2 people stationed outside. Soon it was almost midnight. Let's go out for a walk to prove that I'm still here. Yixian, who was hiding in a forest outside the main city, suddenly dashed out and attacked the city gate from afar. Again? The first prince's expression darkened. He immediately charged out of the city, but in the next moment, Yixian had already disappeared. In these few hours, Yixian had harassed him countless times, making the eldest prince very angry. Now, he simply didn't return to the main city and stood guard outside the city gate. Damn, it seems that I've angered him. Yixian scanned with the eye of revelation and smiled helplessly. After a while, the resource points finally refreshed. Before this, the 6th prince had been guarding the 7th prince's checkpoint. And there were people guarding the other checkpoint as well. If the 7th prince dared to go out, the 6th prince would directly attack the main city. In this way, the 6th prince occupied almost all of the resource points. Yixian, we've occupied 9 resource points. The 6th prince's voice came from the Prince Command Medallion. After all, the entire neutral zone was the 6th prince's army. If anyone dared to come out, they would immediately trigger the alarms, and then the golden armored generals would immediately rush over. As for the last resource point, It should have been occupied by the 2 members of the first prince's camp, but it didn't matter. 9 resource points had increased the 6th prince's army by 4,500 soldiers. Yixian continued to guard. I'll eliminate the 7th prince tonight, the 6th prince suddenly said. Okay, Yixian replied. It seemed that this battle was coming to an end. The 7th prince was forced to defend the main city, and many of his men had been crippled by Yixian. He had also lost 4 golden armored generals. Even if he exchanged his dragon luck for an army, his own dragon luck would be greatly reduced, and he wouldn't be able to defeat the 6th prince. The 6th prince was preparing to attack the city, but he didn't need to bring too many Wolf-Fang cavalry. Instead, he summoned 10 golden armored generals. Originally, they only had 5 golden armored generals, but to be safe, the 6th prince deliberately exchanged his dragon luck for 5 more. 10 golden armored generals and the powerful 6th prince were enough to take down the 7th prince's main city. Tonight was destined to be an eventful night. At dawn, the 6th prince had already led the 10 golden armored generals to the 7th prince's main city. 6th brother, you still came. The 7th prince stood on the city wall and said to the 6th prince, 7th brother, it's time to end this. Come down and fight. The 6th prince said calmly. Okay. The 7th prince replied and led the last of his men out of the main city. After the previous battle, he was only left with 4,000 men and 2 golden armored generals. Although he still had 4 men under him, the only one who could fight was the black-robed woman. Behind the 6th prince, there were 10 golden armored generals with 100% of their body seals. The disparity in strength was huge. 6th brother, let's fight. If you win, I'll back out, the 7th prince said. Okay. The 6th prince agreed. Although he had exchanged a large amount of dragon luck, he had plenty of dragon luck. It wouldn't be a problem for him to deal with the 7th prince. The 2 of them looked at each other in silence, each holding a long sword. 6th brother, I'm sorry. The 7th prince shouted and activated the imperial heavenly technique of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. Almost at the same time, the 6th prince also activated the imperial heavenly technique. A great battle was about to begin. The 7th prince knew that he couldn't defeat the 6th prince. After all, the 6th prince still had the dragon-patterned golden armor. His chances of winning were less than 10%. However, even if he lost, he had to lose honorably. The 2 princes were already at 100% of their body seals. However, they were much stronger than the black-robed woman. Together with the imperial heavenly technique, they were almost invincible in the half-step to supreme realm. It was a pity that the 6th prince was much stronger than the 7th prince in terms of cultivation level and dragon luck. Hence, the 7th prince was quickly defeated. Boom! A loud sound reverberated. The 7th prince was sent flying by the 6th prince's sword. I lost. The 7th prince's eyes were filled with unwillingness. However, as a superior, he understood that the winner was always right. A loss was a loss. Immediately, he turned his head and ordered one of his men to destroy the dragon pillar in the main palace. The 7th prince's main city dragon pillar is destroyed. The 7th prince is eliminated. Chapter 800. The 7th prince's soaring dragon pillar has been shattered. The 7th prince has been eliminated. Eunuch Wu's voice rang out in the sky. Following that, the 7th prince and his men transformed into streaks of light and left the secret realm, including the 7th prince. As for the remaining troops, they stood quietly in their original positions, not moving at all. Now the tripartite balance of power had turned into a two-sided balance of power. Yixian, the 7th prince, has been eliminated. The 6th prince had obtained it through the prince seal and Yixian. There's nothing unusual about the eldest prince's side. No one has come out. Yixian replied. Alright, since that's the case, we'll wait for one more day. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll attack the eldest prince's main city. The 6th prince was in a very good mood. Now that he had eliminated the 7th prince, his only opponent was the eldest prince. Furthermore, the eldest prince was restrained by Yixian, so he could move freely in the secret realm. He immediately sent out experts to search for the 2 people outside the secret realm. He spent an entire day and finally found the 2 people, then sent them out of the secret realm. In a few hours, the resource points would be refreshed again. At that time, the sixth prince would occupy 10 resource points and gain an additional 5,000 soldiers. By then, he would have a total of 10,000 soldiers. The ministers outside the secret realm began to discuss again. However, the outcome was very clear. The eldest prince could at most hold on for half a day. As long as the sixth prince's army pressed in, the eldest prince would definitely be unable to stop them. Then, the position of crown prince would belong to the sixth prince. It would be noon soon. When the sixth prince occupied 10 resource points, he would immediately send out his troops. However, at this moment Yixian, who was squatting in the forest and occasionally using his eye of revelation, suddenly felt that something was amiss. The yuan qi of heaven and earth was rapidly gathering in the eldest prince's main city. What's going on? Yixian was shocked. He hurriedly took out the prince seal and asked, Your Highness, the yuan qi of heaven and earth is beginning to gather in the eldest prince's main city. The sixth prince immediately reacted and exclaimed, Yixian, quick, attack the city. The eldest prince is undergoing the supremacy tribulation. What? Yixian was shocked. Transcending the supremacy tribulation in the midst of a siege? However, when he thought about it, it made sense. The first prince was at the end of his power. If this continued, he would definitely lose. However, Yixian would never have thought that the first prince would choose to undergo the supreme tribulation at such a crucial time. One had to know that the supreme tribulation was extremely dangerous, so many people deliberately suppressed it. Out of 10 half-supremes with 100% body seal, it would be considered pretty good if one of them could break through to the supremacy level. At this moment, the crown prince was actually going to undergo the tribulation. This was simply courting death. After all, once the supreme being tribulation was disturbed, it was very likely that one's soul would be scattered. Sixth Highness, am I really going to attack the city? Yixian asked subconsciously. Now that the first prince was in the middle of transcending the supreme being tribulation, if he were to be disturbed, the first prince's experts would definitely kill him. Attack. No one is stopping you. This means that they have agreed. Attack. The sixth prince said without hesitation. With this reminder, Yixian immediately came to his senses. If the imperial family did not want him to disturb the first prince's supreme being tribulation, Eunuch Wu would definitely appear. Now that he had not appeared, it meant that the imperial family had tacitly agreed to attack the city. Kill. Yixian widened his eyes and rushed out. Although the first prince was very likely to fail the tribulation, if he succeeded, the sixth prince would not be able to break into the main city no matter how many troops he had. Rumble. The sound of the siege was deafening, alarming the experts in the main city. His Highness is undergoing the tribulation. Quick everyone, kill your way out. Don't let him disturb His Highness. The black-robed middle-aged man shouted. The next moment, they rushed out of the main city through the secret passage. Previously, the first prince's camp had 4 golden armor generals destroyed by Yixian. Now, only 2 body seal experts were left with 100% combat strength. However, they still had many saber generals. This was a critical moment. They had to stop Yixian from entering the main city. They had to succeed. After all, the first prince was undergoing the tribulation next to the dragon pillar. At this moment, there was an uproar outside the secret realm. No one had expected the first prince to choose this time to break through. The entire palace was in an uproar. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Sunflame Dynasty Emperor. He chose this time to undergo the tribulation. What is he thinking? The Sunflame Dynasty Emperor narrowed his eyes. He had more than 20 sons. However, a few of them were still underage. Hence, they were still living in the palace. Many of the princes who had competed with him for the position of crown prince had also undergone the tribulation. However, most of them had died. It was normal for some of the imperial family to die. However, the first prince was his first son. He was still concerned about him. Hence, he gave the first prince a set of precious dragon-patterned golden armor. He has accumulated a lot of dragon luck, and his strength is not weak. With the dragon-patterned golden armor, he should be able to break through. The Sunflame Dynasty Emperor thought. However, he was now considering whether to ask Eunuch Wu to stop the tribulation. If he did, it would be unfair to the sixth prince. If he didn't stop the tribulation, It would be a tragedy if the first prince was disturbed and struck to death by the sovereign lightning tribulation. Your Majesty, what's your decision? All the ministers and princes were thinking. In the secret realm, Yixian attacked the city alone again. However, the guards this time were much weaker than before. Underworld Palm. The black-clothed middle-aged man attacked Yixian crazily. However, Yixian dodged all of his attacks. Yixian didn't care about anything else and continued to attack the city. The sovereign tribulation was to condense the yuan qi of heaven and earth above one's head. After the condensation, a tribulation lightning would strike. As long as one could withstand the tribulation, they would be able to condense the sovereign golden body. If they couldn't, their soul would scatter. Yixian was also very nervous. He cursed the first prince for being so shameless to break through at this critical moment. Wasn't he obviously trying to get the imperial family to stop the tribulation? Fortunately, the Sunflame imperial family didn't seem to be involved. Hence he continued to attack. Soon the first city gate collapsed. Yixian quickly rushed in and attacked the second city gate. He was also very helpless. He had already destroyed a city gate before, but it was repaired. Otherwise, he would have already rushed into the main city. Rumble. Yixian's attacks all landed on the city gate. Quick, stop him. The black-clothed middle-aged man shouted. At the same time, he led a golden-armored general and charged in. Not only that, but more than 10 deputy generals with long sabers also rushed in. However, 5 black-clothed middle-aged men and 5 golden-armored generals couldn't do anything to Yixian. Now there was only one. How could it be enough? Irritating guy, get lost. Here's an event. The Super Devouring system's current rating is 530, based on 500 points. By 12 o'clock p.m. on the 31st of December, for every 100 points of 5 stars, 1 chapter will be added on New Year's Day. For every 200 points, 2 chapters will be added and so on. Chapter 801. Get lost, you annoying bastards. Yixian suddenly turned around to attack. These people were too annoying. The passageway to the city wall was not spacious, and these people would affect him greatly if they rushed in. For directions annihilation, a surge of energy surged out, and the saber-wielding deputies around Yixian were sent flying. At the same time, the middle-aged man in black rushed to Yixian's side and struck out with his palm. Smack! The palm landed on Yixian's dragon-patterned golden armor. The palm energy passed through the armor and penetrated Yixian's body, severely injuring Yixian's internal organs. Yixian spat out a mouthful of blood on his armor, but the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Oh no, I fell into his trap. The middle-aged man in black immediately reacted. He thought that Yixian's prince token would be in front of his chest, but it was not there. This was indeed Yixian's intention. Otherwise, the middle-aged man in black would not have been able to get close to him. I'll deal with you first. Eye of illusion. Yixian widened his eyes. An invisible energy entered the middle-aged man in black's eyes, stunning him for a moment. Although this happened in less than a blink of an eye, it was enough for Yixian. Swish! With a sweep of the Wolf-Fang sword in Yixian's hand, the black-clothed middle-aged man's arm was thrown into the air. At the same time, Yixian had already punched out, accurately smashing onto the prince's token on the black-clothed middle-aged man's waist. Gotcha! With a crisp sound, the middle-aged man in black's prince token shattered, and he turned into a ray of light and flew out of the secret realm. Before he disappeared, Yixian saw the middle-aged man's terrified expression. However, what Yixian did not expect was that the items in the middle-aged man's interspatial ring were beyond his imagination. Ding! The host has made a breakthrough. The great emperors will seal the body at 85%. He suddenly made a breakthrough. What? He's only the vice leader of the Nether sect? That means... Yixian's eyes suddenly lit up. Could it be that the first prince was the leader of the Nether spirit sect? However, now was not the time to think so much. Breaching the city was more important. After breaking through, Yixian's attack power had at least doubled. In less than 3 seconds, the city gate collapsed with a loud rumble. Haha! Yixian quickly rushed in and laughed loudly. It seemed that victory belonged to him. However, just as the city gates were about to collapse, there was a flash in the sky. The supreme tribulation lightning struck down. Yixian was stunned. He watched as the supreme tribulation lightning struck the main hall, creating a huge hole in it. Now the tribulation lightning had already struck down. As long as the crown prince could successfully withstand the tribulation lightning, he would be able to condense the sovereign golden body and become a sovereign. If he couldn't, then his soul would be destroyed. Yixian immediately rushed over. He couldn't care less. Since the imperial family wasn't interfering, it meant that the crown prince trial was still ongoing. He had to destroy the dragon pillar as soon as possible. However, when he arrived at the main hall, he saw that the crown prince had already stood up. At this moment, the crown prince's entire body was glowing with a golden light. Even his eyes were golden. Yixian didn't know that the crown prince had the golden dragon plate armor, because the crown prince had already kept it. However, Yixian could tell that the crown prince had withstood the tribulation lightning to become a sovereign and condense the sovereign golden body. Not good. Yixian's expression changed as he hurriedly slashed with his sword. The target of his attack wasn't the crown prince who was experiencing his new strength. Instead, it was the dragon pillar beside the crown prince. As long as the dragon pillar was destroyed, the sixth prince would be the victor. Even if the crown prince became a sovereign, it would be useless. Whoosh! The firmament splitter tore through the air. However, the crown prince's eyes suddenly returned to normal. He took a step forward and blocked the dragon pillar. Boom! The firmament splitter landed on the crown prince's body. After a muffled sound, the crown prince was unharmed. Sovereign golden body. Yixian widened his eyes and scanned with his eye of revelation. He realized that his eye of revelation couldn't see through the crown prince. There was a layer of golden membrane around the crown prince's body that blocked the eye of revelation. This was the sovereign golden body. He had already lost the best opportunity to attack. Now that the crown prince had successfully passed the tribulation lightning, he couldn't destroy the dragon pillar in front of a sovereign. The crown prince trial was over. Brat, are you the one who almost defeated me? Today, even if father comes, he won't be able to save you. Die. When the crown prince saw Yixian, his anger surged. He took a step forward with his left foot and immediately punched out. This punch was aimed directly at Yixian's head. Although Yixian had the golden dragon plate armor, this punch was enough to blow his head apart. The crown prince wanted to kill him. Could it be that I'm going to die just like this? Yixian's eyes widened as the flow of time around him suddenly slowed down. His thoughts were in a mess. Although he could dodge this punch, what if he could dodge the pursuit of the first prince, a supreme expert? No, there was still a way. Let's fight to the death. Yixian silently chanted the special devouring skill. Ding! The special devouring skill of sword intent is successful. The current level is incomplete sword intent. A system notification sounded. Just now, Yixian had blasted the middle-aged man in black out of the secret realm and obtained his yin and yang ring. Because of that, he had broken through. However, Yixian had rushed in at that time and had not tried the special devouring skill of sword intent. Now that he had tried it, he realized that the devouring crystal was enough. Sword intent. He had finally comprehended sword intent. He could block this punch. Not only that, but he could also destroy the dragon pillar. Firmament splitter. Yixian slashed out with his sword. This attack contained sword intent. Sword intent was something that even supreme being experts might not be able to comprehend, but Yixian had. Because it was his first time, Yixian did not know the power of this sword intent. This circular slash easily broke through the crown prince's fist shadows. Under the crown prince's shocked gaze, the slash sank into his chest and sliced the dragon pillar in half. Rip! A crisp sound rang out, and the first prince's eyes widened. Lowering his head, he discovered that his left arm had fallen to the ground, and a bloody line had opened up in front of his chest. Blood spurted out, and his entire body fell backward in two halves. The sovereign golden body had been destroyed. Not only that, but the crown prince's heart had also been sliced in half by Yixian's slash. What? Looking at the crown prince's body that had been sliced in half, Yixian was shocked. He had expected this attack to severely injure the crown prince. Then, he would use the crown prince's body to break the dragon pillar. He did not expect that the crown prince would be sliced to death with a single slash. Who was the crown prince? The crown prince was the eldest son of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor. He was the crown prince of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. However, he had died here. This was serious. It's over. This was Yi Xian's first thought. Chapter 802. It was Yi Xian's first time using sword intent, but he didn't expect it to be so powerful that it could kill a supreme being expert. Perhaps it was because the first prince had just made a breakthrough and hadn't fully condensed the sovereign golden body yet. Now he was in for a tragedy because the Sunflame Imperial family wouldn't let him go. Plop! The soaring dragon pillar fell. When the loud sound reached Yi Xian's ears, the entrance of a secret realm suddenly appeared in front of him. Immediately, several figures rushed out. One of the figures was the Sunflame Emperor. He looked at the first prince's corpse and said in shock, "How could the sovereign golden body be broken?" After saying that, he suddenly turned to Yi Xian and asked, "You comprehended sword intent?" The first prince had already made a breakthrough. Although he hadn't fully condensed the sovereign golden body, it wasn't something a half-step supreme being could hurt. If one wanted to hurt the sovereign golden body, only sword intent could do so. Yi Xian's heart trembled when he saw the Sunflame Emperor's murderous gaze. He knew that he couldn't escape, so he could only nod and say, "This is the incomplete sword intent that I suddenly comprehended when I was facing death." After hearing Yi Xian admit it, the Sunflame Emperor and the surrounding people were shocked. Sword intent. It was actually sword intent. One had to know that even the Sunflame Emperor, a supreme being expert, had yet to comprehend sword intent. Emperor, the first prince's corpse has mutated. At this moment, a middle-aged man suddenly pointed at the first prince's corpse and said, After being reminded, the emperor shifted his gaze from Yi Xian to the first prince's corpse. He discovered that the lower half of the first prince's corpse had a patterned tail. Not only that, but even his face had undergone a huge change. Alien race. The First Highness is actually an alien race. That's the Snake Demon clan. The middle-aged man exclaimed in shock. When the emperor heard that, he was slightly shocked. He carefully sized up the first prince. Indeed, the first prince wasn't human. There were other patterns on his face. That was his original form. The demonic snake clan of the first race had the ability to disguise themselves. He had directly transformed into the first prince's appearance and infiltrated the imperial family. Even supreme being experts didn't notice him. "My son is already dead?" The Rimflame Emperor immediately realized that the dead crown prince was not a human. He was a snake demon disguised as his eldest son. He hurried over and put away the first prince's interspatial ring. After checking it, his expression suddenly changed. "I'm afraid this alien race has been here for more than 10 years. The Sunflame Emperor gritted his teeth. He found some clues among the experts of the demonic snake clan who had disguised themselves as the first prince. The entire imperial court had probably been infiltrated by the demonic snake clan, who knew how to disguise themselves. However, there was no list of names in the interspatial ring. Yi Xian was also trembling with fear. He had heard of the mutated tribes before, but this was the first time he had seen one. In this world, other than humans, there were many other races such as the demon race, the sea race, the beast race, and so on. To humans, these demon races, the sea race, and the beast race were all alien races. The beast race was a race between the human race and the demon race. Their ancestors were actually humans, but some humans chose to mate with beasts, giving birth to the beast race. The demonic snake clan was the beast race, which was the mutated tribe that the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor was talking about. It was a race that was born from the crossbreeding of humans and snake saint beasts. Yi Xian was also helpless. A human and a snake could actually mate. This was heaven-defying. For a moment, the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor didn't know what to say. Originally, Yi Xian had killed the first prince with his sword intent, so he definitely wanted to kill Yi Xian. However, the first prince wasn't the eldest son of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty, but a member of the demonic snake clan who had infiltrated the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. In that case, Yi Xian was considered innocent. "Your Majesty, now," Eunuch Wu, who was beside him, asked. "I didn't expect the mutated tribes to infiltrate the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty so much. The first prince is already dead, and he was disguised by the demonic snake clan. Even I didn't notice." The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor was shocked. He continued, "Stop the Crown Prince test for now. Capture all the members under the first prince. No, capture everyone who participated in the Crown Prince test. Don't let anyone escape." "Yes," Eunuch Wu answered. Then the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor looked at Yi Xian and said, "You, what's your background?" Hearing this question, Yi Xian couldn't help but stiffen. He said, "I exchanged for the title of Marquis in the 6th Heaven prison, and then the 6th Prince's people took a fancy to me." Yi Xian made a long story short, but the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor didn't believe anyone. He said, "Although it's because of you that we saw through the mutated tribes, it doesn't prove anything." At this time, Yi Xian suddenly had a flash of inspiration. "Your Majesty, the first prince." There's a middle-aged man in black next to him. He's the person I eliminated when I attacked the city. He's the vice leader of the ghost sect. Not only that, but the woman in black next to the 7th prince is the saintess of the ghost sect." Yi Xian quickly took out a few interspatial rings, poured the evidence into them, and handed them over. "I know about the ghost sect, and I also know that the first prince is the leader of the ghost sect, but I didn't expect the mutated tribes to be behind this," the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor said with narrowed eyes. The first prince was the leader of the ghost sect, and it wasn't a big deal for such a person to become the emperor. After all, every emperor had to fight openly and secretly with their brothers before ascending to the throne, and many had died. When the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor ascended to the throne, he had also done some shady things. However, the demonic snakes tribe was a mutated tribe, and the first prince had died long ago. Even if the throne fell into the hands of an outsider, it couldn't fall into the hands of an outsider. Hearing this, Yi Xian's heart trembled again. As expected, the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor knew about the ghost sect, and it seemed like he had silently agreed with the first prince and the 7th prince's actions. The ghost sect had a secret technique that allowed one to use a large number of ghost lanterns to forcibly raise one's cultivation. This required killing a large number of peak kings and half-supremes. However, the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor had also silently agreed to this. If one wanted to ascend to the throne, how could one do it without some tricks? Gather everyone in the Sunflame Palace. With that, the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor left the secret realm. In the next moment, the scene in front of Yi Xian changed. He left the secret realm, and the 6th prince was standing beside him. "Yi Xian, what's going on? Did we win?" asked the 6th prince, who still didn't understand what had happened. Yi Xian shook his head and said, "I killed the first prince by mistake. However, the first prince isn't a human. He's from the demonic snakes tribe. I'm afraid the real first prince is already dead." "What?" The 6th prince trembled when he heard this. When he heard that Yi Xian had killed the first prince by mistake, he was scared half to death. However, when he heard the rest of the story, he was so shocked that his jaw dropped. The demonic snakes tribe? The first prince is a mutated tribe? Yang Qi asked in astonishment. Yes. Yi Xian nodded. That was why they had been teleported to the Sunflame Palace. What they were going to do next was probably to be interrogated. Soon, the 16 princes were gathered together. Not only that, but all the members who had participated in the Crown Prince trial were also called over. Chapter 803. Consecrator Liang, I'll leave this to you. The Sunflame Dynasty's emperor suddenly appeared. Behind him was a black-robed old man. The black-robed old man's eyes were extremely sharp. After a quick glance, his gaze landed on Yi Xian. The black-robed old man had been watching the Crown Prince trial from another location. Naturally, he recognized Yi Xian, who had led the attack. So strong, another supreme being expert. Yi Xian's body trembled. Just a glance from the black-robed old man was enough to make his heart palpitate. The black-robed old man was definitely a supreme being expert. Are all the members of the first prince's faction here? The Sunflame Dynasty's emperor sat on the dragon throne and looked around. They're all here, just enough for 10 people. Eunuch Wu whispered. The Sunflame Dynasty's emperor followed Eunuch Wu's gaze, and it landed on the black-robed middle-aged man. You're the vice-sect leader of the Nether Spirit cult, right? The black-robed middle-aged man's heart trembled. He was also shocked when he saw the first prince's corpse turn into a serpent man's body. Thus, he did not dare to hide anything and nodded. Yes, your majesty. Who's the sect leader of the Nether Spirit cult? The Sunflame dynasty's emperor asked again. It's the first prince. The black-robed middle-aged man answered without hesitation. Are you a human? The Sunflame dynasty's emperor asked again. Yes. The black-robed middle-aged man answered without hesitation. At this time the imperial family's consecrator walked over and said coldly, "Look into my eyes." The black-robed middle-aged man looked into the consecrator's eyes. Then the consecrator asked again, "Are you related to the other races?" No. The black-robed middle-aged man answered immediately. However, the moment the words left his mouth, a crisp sound rang out. The black-robed middle-aged man's arm was thrown into the air once again. Previously, he had been cut by Yi Xian. When he came out, he immediately treated himself and grew a new arm. But now he was cut off again. If one wanted to determine whether he was a member of the other races, one could tell from the severed arm. If he was a member of the other races, the severed arm would mutate. This black-clothed middle-aged man's severed arm did not mutate and was still a human arm. So it could prove that he was a human, but it could not prove that he was not related to the other races. The eagle-eyed old man judged whether the other party was telling the truth by looking at their eyes. Although he didn't see any fluctuations in the eyes of the black-clothed middle-aged man, there were still times when he was unsure. "Stand aside," the eagle-eyed old man said. Then he shouted, "Where's the saintess of the Nether Soul sect?" The voice echoed in the hall. Someone in the hall trembled. When the black-robed woman saw that it was her turn, she immediately turned around and rushed out of the Sunfire Hall. "You want to leave?" An expert guarding outside the Sunfire Hall suddenly leaped up and kicked out. Bang! The black-robed woman was sent flying and landed beside the eagle-eyed old man. Yi Xian raised his eyebrows. This black-robed woman was at least 100% body seal, but she had been kicked to the point of vomiting blood. Her opponent was very strong. He immediately used his Eye of Revelation to scan the surroundings, but he discovered that he couldn't see through the armored man. The other party was also a supreme being. This person should be the emperor's personal bodyguard. Yi Xian swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Rip! At this moment, the black-robed woman's arm suddenly flew up. The eagle-eyed old man had made his move. If there was no ghost, why did the black-robed woman run away? As expected, the black-robed woman's broken arm changed after a while. Strange green patterns suddenly appeared on it. The demonic snake clan. What? This woman is also from the demonic tribe? Yi Xian was shocked. When he used his Eye of Revelation to scan the black-robed woman, he didn't discover any difference in the environment of her body. Since she was from the demonic tribe, the Eye of Revelation should at least be able to scan her tail. However, Yi Xian didn't see anything. This meant that the demonic snake clan's disguise ability was very strong. It was no wonder that the first prince wasn't discovered by the supreme being experts of the Sunfire Sacred Dynasty, and had been hiding for more than 10 years. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly remembered something. Previously, he had cut off the black-robed woman's wrist. However, after he took off the interspatial ring, he threw away the severed arm. He didn't notice it. If he had paid more attention, he would have discovered that it was the arm of the demonic snake clan. Humph! You really are from the demonic tribe. The eagle-eyed old man instantly flew over and directly captured the black-robed woman. Impossible! Suddenly, a shout attracted everyone's attention. The seventh prince rushed out from the crowd and looked at the mutated severed arm on the ground. He said in shock, "Impossible! How can you be from the demonic tribe?" The seventh prince didn't continue speaking because he had slept with the black-robed woman for at least hundreds of days and nights. Now that he knew that she was from the demonic snake clan, he almost vomited. He was actually a demonic snake clan. The human race had done an experiment before. As long as a human and a beast were married, the bloodline would be mutated and the child would still be a beast. If the black-robed woman gave birth to a child, this matter would be serious. The seventh prince had the bloodline of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's imperial family. If he gave birth to a demonic tribe child, this would be a shocking scandal. However, the black-robed woman and the first prince were from the demonic snake clan. they wouldn't choose to give birth to a child. After all, this would expose their identities. Humph! The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor's face changed and he glanced at the eagle-eyed old man. The latter immediately understood and said, "Seventh Prince, please excuse me." Rip. Before the seventh prince could react, his wrist was cut off. He knew that he couldn't escape the fate of being interrogated. Immediately, he quickly took out a spiritual elixir from his interspatial ring and swallowed it. Before long, the severed arm grew back. After all, a half-step to Supreme Being was still in the empty God realm. Therefore, it was easier to heal an injury. If one became a Supreme Being and condensed the golden body of a Supreme Being, it would be more difficult to injure them. However, once a Supreme Being was injured, such as having an arm cut off, it would be miserable because the golden body of a Supreme Being was extremely difficult to repair. When the seventh prince's severed arm grew back, his severed arm still didn't mutate. This proved that he wasn't a demonic tribe member. However, the black-robed woman was inextricably linked to him. Therefore, he couldn't escape being implicated. "Seventh Prince, please stand to the side," the eagle-eyed old man said. Then the eagle-eyed old man took out 2 bone spurs from his interspatial ring and pierced the black-robed woman's shoulder. This could suppress the circulation of the black-robed woman's true energy. "Ah!" The black-robed woman cried out in pain. When she realized that she couldn't circulate her true energy, her face turned gloomy and she was dragged to the side by a guard. "Next, please come up one by one. You should know what to do." The eagle-eyed old man looked around and said, "What to do?" Of course, it was to cut off one of their own arms. Everyone present knew that they couldn't escape. One by one, they went up to cut off one of their own arms and received a precious elixir to recover. One by one, the severed arms and legs fell on the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. Blood splattered everywhere. Chapter 804. None of the people before him reacted strangely. Then it was the sixth prince's turn. The sixth prince knew that he was also under suspicion, so he cut off one of his arms to prove his innocence. "All right, sixth prince, please stand aside." The eagle-eyed elder narrowed his eyes. Then, his gaze fell on Yixian, who was standing behind the sixth prince. Although Yixian killed the first prince and forced him to reveal his true form, he was still a suspect. Yixian took out his Wolf-Fang sword, ready to cut off his own hand. But at that moment the Sunflame Emperor spoke up. "Wait, forget about it." The Sunflame Emperor looked at Yixian and said, "What?" Yixian was shocked. The Sunflame Emperor chose to trust him. This shocked him greatly. After all, many people had already cut off their hands before him, including the sixth prince, who was about to become the crown prince. And his position in the Sunflame Emperor's heart surpassed that of the sixth prince. However, Yixian also understood the Sunflame Emperor's intention. Imperial power. Because he had comprehended the sword intent that even Supreme Being experts might not understand, the Sunflame Emperor valued him greatly. The latter wanted to rope him in, so he trusted him. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Yixian heaved a sigh of relief and thanked the emperor. In fact, he was also afraid of being cut off. After all, he had the bloodline of the divine tree of life in his body. If his arm was cut off, it would wither instantly. At that time, he would be mistaken for a beast. He walked to the side and stood beside the sixth prince. "Yixian, you have comprehended the sword intent?" The sixth prince asked in shock. "Yes. Previously, when I attacked the city, I angered the first prince. After the first prince passed the Supreme Being tribulation, he wanted to kill me. At that time, I happened to comprehend the sword intent and almost caused a disaster." Yixian nodded. The sixth prince was in disbelief. A half-Supreme Being who had comprehended the sword intent was a super genius. The number of Supreme Being experts who had comprehended the sword intent in the Imperial family could be counted on one hand. There was not a single half-Supreme Being who had comprehended the sword intent. Even if one turned the entire Sunflame Sacred Dynasty upside down, one would not be able to find one. At this moment, the sixth prince could only describe Yixian as a monster in his heart. At this moment, 16th prince, what are you waiting for? The eagle-eyed old man narrowed his eyes. 16th prince was actually only 19 years old. Perhaps it was because he had never suffered any injuries before, unlike Yixian, who had fought his way up to this level, so he was a little hesitant. But in the next moment, the eagle-eyed old man took his place. Hiss! A wrist fell to the ground. Then 16th Prince suddenly leaped up and stabbed his sword at Emperor Rion. It is indeed the outsiders. The eagle-eyed old man caught the sword in an instant. Then, he took out 2 bone spurs and stabbed them into the 16th Prince's shoulder. The true chi in the 16th Prince's body was instantly sealed. Sigh, I didn't expect 16 to die as well. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire sat on the dragon throne inside. Another member of the demonic snake clan had appeared. Everyone present could not help but gulp. They did not know if their family and friends had already died, and were replaced by members of the demonic snake clan. After the 16th Prince, a few more outsiders appeared and were all captured. Those who broke their wrists to prove their innocence were not released. Instead, they were all captured by the eagle-eyed old man and interrogated in a room. The eagle-eyed old man's eyes were very sharp. In addition to his strength, he managed to capture a few more outsiders. When the Emperor of the Sunflame Empire reported this to the Sunflame Imperial family, the Sunflame Imperial family was also shocked. Then they launched a large-scale operation. As long as they were outsiders, they would chop off their wrists. This time, the purge of the outsiders took a total of 7 days and 7 nights. It had to be said that the outsiders had infiltrated very deeply. They had captured more than 1,000 eunuchs, palace maids, and concubines. There were only 10,000 people in the imperial palace, but 1/10 of them were from the demonic snake clan. Moreover, this was only in the imperial palace. The 17 princes' mansions had not been thoroughly searched yet. While the 17 mansions were being thoroughly searched, Yi Xian was summoned by the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire. At this time, in a small hall in the imperial palace, Yi Xian, just the fact that you helped the Sun Flame Imperial family discover the demonic snake clan is enough to prove your innocence. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire said with his hands behind his back, facing Yi Xian. Many thanks for the Emperor's trust. Yi Xian quickly cupped his fists. Previously, I saw you take out the Wolf Fang sword. You should have obtained the inheritance of the ancient Saint Dynasty's Wolf Fang general, right? The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire asked again. Yi Xian paused for a moment and nodded. Yes. Although the Wolf Fang general's inheritance was in the secret realm of the War of Dragon Luck, it did not contain the Wolf Fang sword. The Wolf Fang general contributed a lot to the ancient Saint Dynasty, but in the end, he died under the lightning tribulation. Actually, I know where his tomb is. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire said. Yi Xian raised an eyebrow, but immediately calmed down. The things in the tomb were all in the Sun Flame Imperial family, which was why the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire did not send people to excavate it. Let's not talk about this. What do you think of the outsiders? The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire asked again. The outsiders' view. Yi Xian paused for a moment and subconsciously answered. Those who are not of the same race are bound to have ulterior motives. What a good ulterior motives. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire suddenly turned around and said, the Snake Demon tribe actually infiltrated our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty without us noticing. They must have disguised themselves as humans to infiltrate our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty. Their goal should be to control our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty. Yi Xian did not speak, and he listened quietly. Our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty has been infiltrated to such an extent, so it must be the same for the surrounding holy dynasties. Our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty and the Snake Demon tribe are separated by several holy dynasties, only the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty. Therefore, the Snake Demon tribe should have infiltrated from the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire continued, but Yi Xian did not understand why the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire was telling him this. While he was puzzled, the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire finally said, You comprehended sword intent as a mere half-step, Venerable. You are the most outstanding genius in the history of our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty. Now let me ask you, are you willing to join our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty and serve us? As expected. After hearing the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire's words, Yi Xian's heart trembled. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire really wanted to recruit him. Seeing Yi Xian's hesitation, the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire's eyes flickered and he asked, Are you not willing? Yi Xian jumped in fright and said solemnly, My ambition is not in the Sun Flame Empire. He had mustered up a lot of courage to say this because there was a chance that he would be killed by the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire with a single slap. When the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire heard this, his body trembled. After 3 seconds he said, "With your talent, our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty cannot keep you. However, you can use our Sun Flame Holy Dynasty as a springboard." Yixian thought that he had heard wrong. The Emperor of the Sun Flame Holy Dynasty actually said such a thing? Using the Sun Flame Holy Dynasty as a springboard? To put it nicely, it was a springboard. To put it bluntly, it was a stepping stone. Everyone, please give this book a 5-star review. Search for the Super Devouring system in the bookstore, and do not enter the circle of readers. There is a comment section under the introduction and you will get a rating there. Until the end of the year, every 100 new fans will get an additional chapter on New Year's Day and so on. Chapter 805. Yixian didn't expect that someone like him who had only comprehended incomplete sword intent would be so highly regarded. The Sun Flame Emperor wanted Yixian to join the Sun Flame Sacred Dynasty first. When he became an expert in the future, he would help the Sun Flame Sacred Dynasty. Since that's the case, I agree. Yixian naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. Now that this matter had happened, even though the 6th prince had won, he would still be investigated. Therefore, he wouldn't be made the crown prince for the time being. He would only be made the crown prince after he was proven innocent. Alright, then you will be a first-grade consecrator of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty from now on. This interspatial ring is for you. In addition, all the martial arts of the Imperial family will be open to you, including our Imperial Heavenly Art. The Sunflame Emperor said as he handed Yixian an interspatial ring. These things are enough for you even if you are a supreme being. Yixian took the interspatial ring and almost went berserk when he saw it. As expected of the Emperor, he was so generous. The things in the interspatial ring could definitely help him break through to the body sealing realm. Thank you, Emperor. Yixian hurriedly expressed his gratitude. I will arrange a place for you to stay in the palace for the next few days. Try not to go out. Now that the demonic snake clan has been exposed, I think the demonic snake clan and the ferocious leopard sacred dynasty will make a move. Be careful, said the Sun Flame Emperor. After that, an imperial guard took Yixian away. The demonic snake clan and the ferocious leopard sacred dynasty were alien races. The demonic snake clan wanted to use a disguise to seize power. Now Yixian, who had comprehended sword intent at the half-supreme being level, would become a hidden target. After Yixian left, a person suddenly walked out from behind the screen. It was the eagle-eyed old man who had appeared in the Sun Flame Palace that day. Consecrator Liang, what do you think of this kid? Asked the Sun Flame Emperor. Nothing strange, at least I didn't see anything strange. The eagle-eyed old man shook his head. Forget it, let's not talk about this. How are the alien races? Asked the Sun Flame Emperor. The eagle-eyed old man shook his head once more. They're all very tight-lipped. However, I have a friend who knows how to speak, so I can invite him over. Alright, no matter how much we have to spend, we have to find every single one of them. Also, send some more messengers to inform the emperors of the nearby dynasties to head over from the heavenly prison. The Rimflame Emperor nodded. Yes. The eagle-eyed old man acknowledged and left. In fact, the Rion Emperor was afraid that the demonic snake clan had infiltrated the imperial palace. They were supreme being experts. At this time, Yixian was led to his new residence by an imperial guard. Now, he was a high-ranking member of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. First-grade Reverend was the highest rank, followed by second-grade Reverend and third-grade Reverend. Lord Yi, this lowly one will take his leave, the imperial guard said and left. Yixian looked at his small lakeside building and walked in. Then, he scanned it with his eye of revelation. There was no one inside. Originally, there were eunuchs and maids in the small building, but after the appearance of the demonic snake clan, they were all arrested for investigation. Forget it, I'll break through first. Yixian squinted his eyes and swallowed the items in the interspatial ring. Ding! Host has broken through. Currently, he is at 90% physique sealing realm. Ding! Host has broken through. Currently, he is at 95% physique sealing realm. Ding! Host has broken through. Currently, he is at 100% physique sealing realm. The Rimflame Emperor was generous. The items he gave helped him break through to 100% physique ceiling realm. However, he was unable to break through to the Supreme Being level. If a 100% physique ceiling realm wanted to become a Supreme Being and condense the Supreme Being golden body, he would have to undergo the Supreme Being tribulation. Yixian was no exception. Ding! Host has a 30% success rate of passing the Supreme Being tribulation. The system notification. Sure enough, there's a success rate of passing the tribulation. However, isn't 30% a little too low? Yixian was exasperated. Moreover, the dragon pattern golden armor should be included. Without the dragon pattern golden armor, the success rate would definitely be lower than 30%. Could be 20% or even 10%. The dragon pattern golden armor could weaken the power of the Supreme Being tribulation by 20%, but it only gave Yixian a 30% chance of breaking through. It seemed that he had to use other methods to increase the success rate. If I combine with my avatar to pass the tribulation, the success rate will probably increase. Moreover, I can also cultivate the Supreme Being martial arts. The Imperial Heavenly Technique of the Imperial family can use the dragon luck to resist the power of the tribulation. I wonder what my success rate will be if all these factors are added together. Yixian thought about it and casually found a room to rest. He had just broken through, so it was better for him to stay here and wait for some time before he went to cultivate the Supreme Being martial arts. He stayed here for 7 days. At this time, half a month had passed since the death of the first prince. In this half a month, the Rimflame Sacred Dynasty was still capturing the demonic snake clan. There were already thousands of them. Yixian didn't care too much. He left the small building by the lake and headed for the Imperial family's martial arts pavilion. The Imperial family's martial arts pavilion was the biggest pavilion in the Rimflame Sacred Dynasty. There were countless martial arts gathered here. You must be the kid who comprehended the sword intent. Not bad, not bad. Our Imperial family's martial arts are on the 3rd level. You can go and take a look. If you want to learn the Imperial Heavenly Technique, come to me. An old man sat behind the counter and said to Yixian with a smile. Yixian scanned with his eye of revelation. As expected, it was blocked by the old man's Supreme Being golden body. The old man was also a Supreme Being. Thank you, Senior. Yixian thanked him and walked in. These martial arts were only names and introductions, so Yixian gave up the idea of copying them into the Devouring system. He went straight to the 3rd floor. The martial arts on the 3rd floor were all Supreme Being martial arts. The Supreme Being martial arts were extremely powerful. Any one of them wasn't something a half-step Supreme Being could withstand. This was also the reason why Yixian didn't dare to fight with the 3 princes. However, Supreme Beings had the Supreme Being golden body. If one didn't have the sword intent, it would be difficult to kill a Supreme Being with just the Supreme Being martial arts, unless the Supreme Being martial arts were of a very high level. Yixian went upstairs and chose a few Supreme Being martial arts. Then he came back down. Senior, I've already chosen. Yixian said the names of the Supreme Being martial arts. Then the old man passed the secret manual to him. Kid, remember not to pass these Supreme Being martial arts to outsiders. As for the Imperial Heavenly Technique, follow me. After the old man finished speaking, he led Yixian to the basement of the martial arts pavilion. The Imperial Heavenly Technique was recorded on a stone tablet. The Imperial Heavenly Technique was created by the founding emperor of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. However, the Crown Prince also cultivated it. Since the Crown Prince's original body was of the demonic snake clan, the Imperial Heavenly Technique must have been leaked. Therefore, the old man didn't take any measures. Ding! The Imperial Heavenly Technique has been copied successfully. Does the host want to learn it? Chapter 806. Ding! The Imperial Heavenly Technique has been copied successfully. Will the host learn it? Yes. Yixian replied in his mind. Ding! The host has learned the Imperial Heavenly Technique. Yixian glanced at it and realized that the Imperial Heavenly Technique was divided into 3 parts. The first part was the Imperial Heavenly Sword Technique, the second part was the Imperial Heavenly Dragon Roaming Steps, and the third part was the Imperial Heavenly Tyrant Body. As the name suggested, the Imperial Heavenly Sword Technique was an offensive martial art, the Imperial Heavenly Dragon Roaming Steps was a movement martial art, and the Imperial Heavenly Tyrant Body was a martial art that could enhance one's physique using the dragon luck. Imperial Heavenly Tyrant Body? Yixian took out the Prince token and used the Imperial Heavenly technique to channel all the dragon luck into his body. He glanced at the panel and realized that the success rate of the tribulation had increased from 30% to 35%. The Imperial Heavenly Tyrant Body can seal the dragon luck into one's body and refine it to strengthen one's physique. No wonder all the princes want to obtain the dragon luck. Yixian squinted his eyes and continued to learn the other martial arts. Although there were offensive martial arts in the Imperial Heaven Arts, the martial arts that Yixian learned this time included palm techniques, fist techniques, and so on in case of emergencies. My success rate of the tribulation is only 35% now. If I use all the dragon luck to strengthen my physique, it might increase to 50%. Yixian left the martial arts pavilion as he thought about it. He returned to his small house by the lake and began to refine the dragon luck in his body. It's a pity that I can't absorb the dragon luck directly. I have to use the Imperial Heavenly Tyrant Body to absorb it, which is a little slow. Yixian felt helpless and began to cultivate on his own. This time it took him another half a month to absorb all the dragon luck he had obtained. His success rate of the tribulation had reached 53%. The higher one's cultivation level was, the more worries one had and the more one feared death. Yixian was no exception. He wouldn't joke about his life, so he couldn't directly undergo the tribulation. Oh right, the sixth prince said that there are only 2 or 3 items in the national treasury that I need. I used the cave spirit fruit and the illusory spirit fruit to activate the Eye of Insight and the Eye of Illusion. I wonder if there are any other treasures. At this time Yixian's eyes suddenly lit up. Thus he wanted to ask the emperor. If there was, then he could open another heavenly eye. Yixian, who had become a first-class consecrator of the imperial family, wandered around the imperial palace until he arrived at the palace where the emperor resided. Lord Yi, please wait a moment. A guard went in to report. At the same time, Yixian subconsciously scanned his surroundings. He discovered that there were actually 4 sovereigns guarding the surroundings of the flaming emperor's residence. It was truly a dragon's lair and tiger's den. Yixian thought to himself as he waited quietly. Soon the guard returned and let him in. When Yixian saw the Emperor of the Sun, he was accompanied by several armored generals. Yixian, why are you looking for us? The Emperor of the Sun asked. Yixian glanced over and noticed that the flaming emperor's expression wasn't too good. It seemed that something had happened, but he didn't pay attention to it and directly asked, Your Majesty, I've already broken through to 100% of the seal. In a while I might be going through tribulation. What? The flaming emperor and the surrounding generals were all shocked. 20 days ago, Yixian had only sealed his body to 85%, but now he had actually reached 100%. In a while, he would be going through his tribulation. Wasn't this cultivation a little too fast? The Emperor of the Sun gave Yixian a lot of cultivation resources back then. If it was someone else, it would take several months to break through to the physique sealing realm. However, Yixian did it in less than a month. The Emperor of the Sun sensed that Yixian was indeed at the physique sealing realm, and he seemed to have mastered the Imperial Heavenly Tyrant Body. Good. The Emperor of the Sun Flame was excited. He said, Then what do you need this time? Yixian did not waste time and handed over a list. The Emperor of the Sun Flame glanced at it and said, In the treasury, there is only the Void Observation Vine. Void Observation Vine? Yixian narrowed his eyes. The Void Observation Vine was a necessity for the Eye of Perception. The Eye of Perception had a powerful perception ability that could enhance the host's senses and aura. Although it was not as useful as the Eye of Revelation or the Eye of Illusion, it was still very useful. I have already given you the salary of a first-grade consecrator. If you want the Void Observation Vine, you will have to exchange for it with contribution points. The Emperor of the Sun Flame suddenly said. Good. Yixian nodded. Ever since the demonic snake clan was exposed, the news spread. The 4 sacred dynasties around our Sunflame sacred dynasty are restless. Among them, the Wild Leopard sacred dynasty has sent troops to our Sunflame sacred dynasty. Now, I will appoint you as the great general of suppression. You will resist the Wild Leopard sacred dynasty's attack. The Emperor of the Sun Flame said. Yes, Your Majesty. Yixian answered. The Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty was one of the sacred dynasties that bordered the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. The demonic snake clan should have come from the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty. Both the demonic snake clan and the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty belonged to the Beast Race Sacred Dynasty, so they did not see each other as enemies. Now Yi Xian had become the great general of suppression of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. He had to go to war to earn contribution points. In the past, the sixth prince had fought many battles and earned a lot of contribution points. He then used them to exchange for dragon luck. I can give you the Void Observation Vine first, but you have to win the battle. The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor said softly. Good. Yi Xian nodded. The wars between us lower-grade sacred dynasties are not allowed to send Supreme Being experts. With your strength, you are invincible among the half-step Supreme Being experts. You have the ability to kill Supreme Being experts. However, you have to be careful. Our Sunflame Sacred Dynasty might have Supreme Being experts from other tribes. They might try to assassinate you. The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor reminded him softly. Hearing this, Yi Xian could not help but raise his eyebrows. It was not a joke for a Supreme Being expert to assassinate him. Although he had comprehended the sword essence and could kill a Supreme Being expert, he could still die if he was ambushed. I will be careful. Yi Xian nodded. Good. Then you should get ready. 7 days later, you will follow General Yuan to battle. The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's emperor said. Yi Xian immediately turned around and left. This time, he planned to return to the general's tomb and merge with his doppelganger. He wanted to raise the level of his doppelganger. After all, his doppelganger was his second life. However, just as he was about to leave, someone suddenly stopped him. It was an Imperial Guard. Lord Yi, the Emperor ordered me to give this to you. The Imperial Guard gave Yi Xian an interspatial ring and left in a hurry. Yi Xian took the interspatial ring and saw that it contained the Void Observation Vine. Ding! The host has activated the Eye of Perception. Chapter 807. Ding! The host has activated the Eye of Perception. Now Yi Xian had activated 3 heavenly eyes. They were the Eye of Revelation, the Eye of Illusion, and the Eye of Perception. When he activated the Eye of Perception, his body trembled violently. This was because there were many powerful auras in the palace he was in. Only a Supreme Being could emit such an aura that made his heart palpitate. Even if the other party concealed their aura, he could still sense it. His sensing ability was probably more than 10 times stronger. Not bad. When I close my eyes, I still have the effect of the supersonic bat bloodline. I can sense even the slightest movement within tens of thousands of meters. I can fight even with my eyes closed. Yi Xian opened his eyes. The Heavenly Eye bloodline was not bad. He was looking forward to it because there were still a few heavenly eyes that had not been activated. The Burning Eye, the Eye of the Void, the Eye of Eternity, the Eye of Nirvana, the Eye of Glory, and so on. These heavenly eyes all had unique effects. If all of them were activated, Yi Xian's strength would be very strong. After activating the Eye of Perception, Yi Xian hurriedly left the Imperial City. However, before he left the Imperial City, he discovered several people following him. There are 6 in total. I wonder if they were all sent by the Emperor of Sun Yan. With the Eye of Perception, Yi Xian could pinpoint the location of these 6 people. At the same time, he could sense that their realms were around 90% of the physique ceiling realm. As long as no Supreme Being came, they would not be a threat to him. Forget it. I'll return to the Desert of Death first. After thinking for a while, Yi Xian immediately left the Imperial City and ran all the way. When the 6 people saw him leave the Imperial City, they immediately returned to report. With Yi Xian's current realm, it only took him a day to reach the Desert of Death and merge with his doppelganger. Before merging, his success rate was 53%. After merging, his overall strength increased by 10%. However, his success rate increased by 15 points, reaching 68%. After returning from this expedition, I'll probably be able to break through to the Supreme Being level. Maybe I won't even need to come back. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. At this time, he still had 1 advancement point that he could add to his Gemini bloodline and increase his strength by 10% after fusion. At that time, the success rate of transcending the tribulation would probably reach 80%. However, what he wanted was not 80% but 100%. After all, he would only be left with one life after fusing. If his luck was bad and he encountered that 20%, then it would be one corpse and 2 lives. To be safe, he could only go out and earn battle merits to exchange for dragon luck. After the secret meeting, Yixian secretly left and returned to the imperial city. When the Sunflame Dynasty Emperor heard that Yixian had left the imperial capital, his heart skipped a beat. Now that Yixian had returned, he was relieved. Yixian had the potential to become the strongest expert in the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. If he was secretly killed by the alien race experts, it would be disastrous. Soon, the day of Yixian's expedition arrived. At this moment, at the entrance of the imperial city, Yixian, this time the 3 of us will be mixed in with the troops. We will be responsible for escorting you to the border, but we will not interfere in the battle. After the eagle-eyed old man finished speaking, he led the 2 supreme being experts of the imperial family and mixed in with Yixian's troops. Yixian was a little shocked because these were 3 supreme being experts. It was enough to prove that the Sunflame Dynasty Emperor valued him highly. This time, other than Yixian, there were a few other generals. Although their strength was not strong, they were much better than Yixian when it came to arranging troops. At the same time, the 6th prince also came to send Yixian off. When Yixian joined the 6th prince's residence, he was only 65% physique ceiling. Now, his strength was invincible among the half-step supreme being experts. He had the strength to kill a half-step supreme being. Very soon, the expedition team left the imperial capital and headed towards the border at high speed. On the way, they met up with the Sunflame army, so their speed was a little slow. At this speed, it would take them about a month to reach the border. However, there was no other way. After all, he had to bring the others with him. Previously, they did not encounter any problems. After all, the Sunflame army was so large that the bandits did not dare to approach them. However, on the 15th night after Yixian left the imperial capital, the Sunflame army was resting in the camp. Yixian was grilling meat. There were a few generals around him. As for the 3 of them, they were hiding. At this moment, Yixian raised his eyebrows. "General Yi, what's wrong?" a general asked in surprise. At this moment, within Yixian's range of perception, 3 figures had already sneakily stepped in. Their auras are so strong. They are 3 supreme being experts. Yixian opened his eyes wide and immediately shouted, "Senior Eagle Eye, 3 supreme being experts are approaching. They are in the forest behind me." What? When Consecrator Liang and the other 2 people who were in the same tent heard this, they were also surprised for a moment because the 3 of them did not sense the enemy's aura. However, Yixian was not an ordinary person, so they chose to believe him. "Who are you? Show yourself." Minister Liang, who had a pair of fierce eyes, roared to the sky. The 3 people in the forest looked at each other. The leader in the black robe shouted, "Don't care about those small fries. Kill that guy first. Go." The next moment, the 3 figures rushed out of the forest. At the same time, they exposed their auras and were targeted by Eagle Eye and the other 2 generals. 3 against 3, just right. The 6 supreme being experts started to fight. At the same time, Yixian took out his Wolf Fang sword and followed them. With his current strength, he should be able to fight against the supreme being experts. However, he did not rush out rashly. He wanted to see the strength of his opponents first. At this moment, Minister Liang suddenly shouted, "Minister He, it's you." He knew the leader of the supreme being experts who came to assassinate Yixian. "So what if it's me, Eagle Eye?" The leading man sneered and revealed his true form. He was from the demonic snake clan, disguised as a human. Although it was difficult to repair the sovereign golden body of a supreme being expert, there were many good medicines in the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's treasury. It was relatively easy to repair a broken pinky bone. However, it was unknown who leaked the news. After that day, some supreme being experts in the palace fled because they were afraid of exposing their identities and being besieged by the experts of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty. Minister He was one of the supreme being experts who fled the imperial city. However, the 2 people behind him were not the supreme being experts of the demonic snake clan. They were 2 burly leopards. The 6 of them started to fight fiercely. Chapter 808. In a 3-on-3 situation, the difference in strength between the 2 parties was not very obvious, so they usually did not suffer any casualties. However, one should not forget that Yi Xian had comprehended sword intent. Although it was only half of it, it was enough to cause a lot of damage to the sovereign golden body. The Mad Leopard clan is extremely fast, but the leader of the demonic snake clan is obviously not an ordinary sovereign. Let's find a mad leopard to kill first. Yi Xian squinted his eyes and quickly rushed out. Although the beast clan was descended from humans, they were more beastly. Therefore, Yi Xian estimated that his beast god bloodline should have an amplification effect. In addition to his sword intent and imperial heavenly sword art, it should not be a problem to kill one person. However, just as he was about to help, another aura quickly approached. What? There's another one? Yi Xian was shocked for a moment. Then he fiercely slashed his sword in the direction he sensed. Imperial heavenly sword art. Imperial slash. An attack infused with half of his sword intent instantly slashed into the forest, but it did not hit the other party. The other party nimbly dodged it. Good boy, you found me again. You're courting death. A 2-meter-tall mad leopard waved its claws and rushed toward Yi Xian. Humph, let's see who's going to die. Yi Xian coldly snorted and faced it head-on. He, who was only at 80% of his Emperor Will Seal, already had 100% of his Emperor Will Seal. Now that he had 100% of his Emperor Will Seal, and with his bloodline it was not a problem to fight a sovereign. Imperial slash. Mad claw. Boom. Yi Xian's slash collided with the other party's claw attack. Shockwaves surged, but the one who had the upper hand was indeed Yi Xian. Although breaking through to the sovereign level would allow one's true energy to leap by leaps and bounds, Yi Xian was using a sovereign-level martial art. In addition to the Sword Emperor's bloodline and sword intent, his attacks were enough to severely injure an ordinary sovereign expert. However, the Mad Leopard clan was known for their speed, so the other party dodged the Imperial slash. Brat, I know you've comprehended sword intent. It's hard for me to imagine that a human could comprehend sword intent at half-step Supreme Being. This is a huge threat to my clan. The Mad Leopard sneered and flew towards Yi Xian. His attacks couldn't compare to Yi Xian's, so naturally, he couldn't exchange blows with him. Therefore, he wanted to get close to Yi Xian and then tear Yi Xian, who didn't have a sovereign golden body, into pieces. You want close combat? As you wish. Yi Xian harumphed coldly in his heart and rushed over. Although he didn't have the sovereign golden body and would be torn apart by the other party's claws if he wasn't careful, his speed was still not something an ordinary person could compare to. Imperial heavenly roaming dragon steps. Yi Xian moved quickly like a slippery loach. Ding! The proficiency of the Imperial heavenly roaming dragon steps has increased. It is currently at 50%. Ding! The proficiency of the heavenly imperial sword art has increased. It is currently at 70%. Since the quasi-sovereign martial art was a transition, there was no proficiency to speak of. However, the sovereign martial art appeared again. Yi Xian held the Wolf Fang sword and exchanged blows with the Mad Leopard clan expert. In terms of speed, he wasn't inferior to the other party at all. How is this possible? A mere half-step sovereign martial artist can actually keep up with the speed of my Mad Leopard clan? This is impossible. The Mad Leopard clan expert roared in his heart. The Mad Leopard clan was known for their speed. Moreover, he was a sovereign martial artist. It was the first time he saw a half-step sovereign martial artist catching up to him. Brat, no matter what, I will kill you today. The Mad Leopard clan expert shouted and his attacks became more and more violent. Yi Xian felt a little regretful because the Mad Leopard clan expert was also using a sovereign martial art. It was a claw technique that looked very powerful. Unfortunately, his eye of revelation couldn't see through the sovereign golden body, so he couldn't steal it. He just had to wait until he broke through to the sovereign realm. At that time, he should be able to do it again. The Heavenly Eye clan bloodline, other than using advancement points to upgrade, would also upgrade according to the realm. Boom! 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 Loud sounds kept coming out from the area. After all, there were 7 Supreme Being experts fighting here. In a battle of this level, the 50,000 Blazing Sun army couldn't interfere at all. That brat is indeed powerful. He can actually fight the Mad Leopard clan expert to a draw. The eagle-eyed old man glanced at Yi Xian. It was the first time he had seen a half-step sovereign martial artist challenge a real sovereign martial artist. However, at this moment, ding! The proficiency of the Imperial Heavenly Sword Art has increased. It is currently at 90%. Ding! The proficiency of the Imperial Heavenly Dragon Roaming Steps has increased. It is currently at 70%. Two notifications sounded at the same time. Yixian suddenly increased his speed and slashed out with his sword. Imperial Heavenly Sword Art. Imperial Slash. Boom! The Mad Leopard Clan expert couldn't react in time. He opened his eyes wide and watched as the slash landed on his shoulder. Rip! A crisp sound was heard, and the Mad Leopard Clan expert retreated a few steps. He and Yixian had fought more than 100 rounds, but he was the first one to be injured. How was this possible? He wasn't the only one who was shocked. Yixian was the same. The sovereign golden body of this Mad Leopard Clan expert is at least twice as powerful as the first prince. Yixian thought to himself. The first prince had just passed the sovereign tribulation and hadn't finished condensing his sovereign golden body. His sovereign golden body wasn't even 10% complete, so he was killed by Yixian. The Mad Leopard Clan expert in front of him had broken through many years ago, so his sovereign golden body was naturally powerful. Yixian took advantage of the fact that the Mad Leopard Clan expert was at a disadvantage. Imperial Heavenly Sword Art. Rising Dragon Sword. Yixian held the Wolfang sword and slashed viciously from the bottom to the top. Rip! The Mad Leopard Clan expert's chin was cut open. Fortunately, he dodged quickly. Otherwise, his head would have been cut in half. We can't fight him head-on. Retreat! The Mad Leopard Clan expert finally realized the danger and hurriedly shouted. The 6 people fighting on the other side didn't have such injuries. This was enough to prove the strength of the sword intent. If they continued to fight, they would be the ones to die. Retreat! The demonic Snake Clan expert in the lead also shouted. In an instant, the 4 of them quickly fled into the forest. After them, the eagle-eyed elder shouted. What a joke! They had the advantage now, so how could they not chase after them? Yixian naturally wouldn't let this Mad Leopard Clan expert go. After all, this was a sovereign golden body expert. If they killed him and devoured the treasures inside, they might be able to break through. However, the Mad Leopard Clan had another racial characteristic. They were extremely fast when running in a straight line. They were 30% faster than when they were fighting. In the blink of an eye, they pulled away from Yixian. Damn it! Stop chasing! The eagle-eyed elder suddenly called out to everyone. What if they were ambushed if they continued to chase? Yixian also chose to give up. It was indeed not so easy to deal with a sovereign golden body expert. It seemed that his timing wasn't right. Yixian immediately met up with the eagle-eyed elder and the other 2. Chapter 809. Fortunately, they don't have enough manpower this time. Otherwise, it would be dangerous. The eagle-eyed old man heaved a sigh of relief. Upon hearing this, Yixian nodded silently. If another Supreme Being expert came, then he would have to face 2 of them alone. If you want to go to the border, I'm afraid you will have to abandon the army. The 3 of us will escort you. As long as we reach the border, the Holy Verdict Alliance will deter them from making a move. The eagle-eyed old man said. Holy Verdict Alliance? Yixian raised his eyebrows. He had heard of the Holy Verdict Alliance before. It was a force used to guard the lower-grade Holy Dynasty. In the war between the lower-grade Holy Dynasty, Supreme Being experts were not allowed to intervene. Those alien races were able to make a move because they were in the territory of the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. The Holy Verdict Alliance was very strong and well-informed. Previously, a Supreme Being expert of the Holy Dynasty took advantage of the situation and made a move in the war, but unexpectedly, he was killed by the experts of the Holy Verdict Alliance. As long as they reached the border, those Supreme Beings who had infiltrated the Sunflame Holy Dynasty would not be able to make a move. Then, I will have to trouble the 3 seniors. Yixian thanked them. Splitting up was the only thing he could do. Who asked him to have such a high hatred? As for the 50,000 soldiers of the Sunflame Holy Dynasty, they were not worried. After all, they were not interested in them. Immediately, Yixian followed the 3 of them and left the army secretly. Yixian had the perceptive eye and left under the cover of the night. Therefore, the enemy should not be able to find him. Originally, it would take about 15 days to reach the border, but Yi Xian and the other three only spent a little more than a day to reach the border. Originally, there was a Supreme Being expert guarding the border to prevent the enemy's Supreme Being experts from making a move. Now, with the addition of the three of them, there were four. Yi Xian, the three of us will stay here. After the war is settled, we will send you back. The three of them were stationed at the border, but they were Supreme Being experts, so they could not intervene. This border was connected to the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty. There was a total of 50,000 soldiers of the Blazing Sun Army. They were all elite soldiers, and the weakest among them was a half-step Supreme Being. The core strength of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty was the half-step Supreme Beings. This was actually not a big deal because one Supreme Elixir could allow a 9th-stage Great Sovereign to break through to the half-step Supreme Being realm. Yi Xian was a Marquis, and he could receive 10,000 Supreme Elixirs a month. A Duke could receive 100,000 Supreme Elixirs. Therefore, half-step Supreme Beings were not a big deal. General Yi, this is the military intelligence that our spies have found out. In a valley 10,000 li away from the border, there are 20,000 Mad Leopard Army troops stationed there. A general in black armor handed a military report to Yi Xian. Yi Xian glanced over and said casually, "Only 3 half-step Supreme Martial Artists with 100% Physique Seal cultivation? I'll deal with them myself." "What? General Yi, this?" The black armored general was startled. Yi Xian was actually going to face the 30,000-strong Wild Leopard Army alone. What kind of joke was this? The black armored general didn't know about Yi Xian's past, so he couldn't help but look at Yi Xian strangely. "General Yi, the Mad Leopard clan is extremely fast. They are very difficult to deal with," the black armored general reminded him. "I know, but I'm only at 80% Physique Seal cultivation. Now that I've reached 100% Physique Seal cultivation, as long as no Supreme Being comes, they won't be a threat to me." Yi Xian knew that the general didn't know him, so he said this. "Invincible under the Supreme Being realm?" The black armored general immediately reacted. He didn't understand why the royal family only sent a brat, but now it seemed that Yi Xian was indeed capable. Invincible under the Supreme Being realm, he could totally lead a war. Immediately, Yi Xian left the border and followed the military intelligence. It was still night, and it was very suitable for a massacre. The night was dark and the wind was strong. It was a night for killing. Tonight, there would be rivers of blood and thousands of corpses lying on the ground. After running for a while, Yi Xian felt a huge aura. It was the aura of 30,000 Mad Leopard soldiers. The 30,000 Mad Leopard soldiers were led by 3 half-step Supreme Beings with 100% Physique Seal cultivation. Yi Xian didn't know how many merits he would get if he killed all of them. Anyway, he just had to kill them all. Yi Xian quietly sneaked over and hid behind a tree. He squinted his eyes and saw that there were many Mad Leopard soldiers among the tens of thousands. If the real Supreme Beings can't participate in the battle, then I'm invincible. Yi Xian directly took out his dragon-patterned golden armor and charged over. Although he was very confident, it was better to be safe. After all, he didn't have the Supreme Being golden body, only the dragon-patterned golden armor. When he was only 1,000 meters away, Yi Xian raised his hand and used the Sword Emperor's Slash on the Mad Leopard soldiers in front of him. The Sword Emperor's Slash, which contained sword intent, was extremely powerful. It broke through the air like a meteor flashing past. Swish! 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 The Sword Emperor's Slash moved in a straight line, taking away the lives of thousands of Mad Leopard soldiers. This Sword Emperor's Slash was only the appetizer. After it, countless more Sword Emperor's Slashes attacked the Mad Leopard soldiers. Yi Xian stood 1,000 meters away and attacked crazily. In just a second, more than 10,000 Mad Leopard soldiers fell. What? The 3 Physique Seal experts leading the Mad Leopard soldiers were already shocked when they saw the corpses. Just a moment ago they were still eating, but now they were suddenly cut in half. Blood spurted out crazily. This scene frightened them. But in the next moment, a white slash came and cut them in half at the waist. Yi Xian's attack could even injure a Supreme Being. These half-step Supreme Beings without the Supreme Being golden body couldn't withstand his attack. Then Yi Xian flew into the air and killed those who were cut in half but didn't die. In less than 10 seconds, All 30,000 Mad Leopard soldiers were killed by Yi Xian. He was invincible below the Supreme Being level. Battle merits were calculated by the number of people killed. Therefore, Yi Xian directly collected the corpses of the Mad Leopard soldiers. There were more than 31,000 corpses in total. This meant that there were more than 30,000 interspatial rings. When marching to war, we don't bring many things. All of them are healing medicines and the like. Yi Xian was a little helpless. Although there weren't many things in each interspatial ring, the quantity was huge. Moreover, the 30,000 corpses could bring him a lot of battle merits because there were 3 physique seal experts among them. Then Yi Xian quickly left. When he returned to the border, everyone was shocked because Yi Xian seemed to have left less than 5 minutes ago. Could it be that Yi Xian had suddenly changed his mind? But when Yi Xian took out the high-grade interspatial ring that contained the 30,000 corpses, everyone was shocked. In 5 minutes he had taken care of 30,000 Berserk Leopard tribe experts, including 3 body seal experts. These 5 minutes included the time taken to go back and forth. In other words, it took him at most 1 minute to kill the 30,000 Mad Leopard soldiers. Invincible below the Supreme Being level. Amazing! Chapter 8:10. Yi Xian asked someone and did some calculations. After exchanging the draconic luck and refining it with the Imperial Heavenly Tyrant body, he estimated that he could only increase his chances of passing the tribulation to 60%. If he added the clone and the advancement point, it would be around 90%. Thus, he estimated that he would have to do it 1 or 2 more times. Of course, it would be best if he didn't use the advancement point. After all, he rarely merged with his clone, so it wasn't worth it to waste 1 advancement point. Simply put, before he merged with his clone, he had to increase his chances of passing the tribulation to 80%. When he merged with his clone, his strength increased by 10% and his chances of passing the tribulation increased by 15%. However, as his strength increased, the 10% increase was more than before, so his chances of passing the tribulation were around 80%. That army was sent back by the scouts of the Sunflame army. Yi Xian, who was eager to pass the tribulation, decided to go personally this time. As long as he encountered the Mad Leopard tribe, he would kill without mercy. Yi Xian left the border again and began to wander around. His speed was so fast that as long as he encountered a living creature, it wouldn't be able to escape his eye of perception. Moreover, the eye of perception could transmit the shape of a living creature to his brain, allowing him to instantly distinguish whether it was a human or a foreign race. The Sunflame Sacred Dynasty and the Mad Leopard Sacred Dynasty bordered each other, and between the 2 borders was an unclaimed land. Yi Xian quickly moved through this unclaimed land. What surprised him was that after searching for an entire night, he didn't find a second Mad Leopard army. He only encountered a few scouts of the Mad Leopard tribe. I didn't expect there to be no other army stationed here. Since that's the case, I'll attack the city. Yi Xian suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Since he couldn't find them, he would attack them himself and break through the entire border. Immediately, he rushed toward the border of the Mad Leopard tribe. With his strength, he was invincible below the Supreme Being level. He could lead a battle alone. Breaking through the border wasn't a problem. Soon Yi Xian found the border of the Mad Leopard tribe before dawn. A battle without any suspense had begun. Kill! Yi Xian wore the dragon-patterned golden armor, and wielded the Wolfang sword as he charged forward. Imperial Heavenly Sword Art. Imperial Slash. Incomplete Sword Intent. Yi Xian immediately launched an attack on the city gate. Sword will had unparalleled power. Even Supreme Being experts who possessed the sovereign golden body could be severely injured by it. How could a mere array door stop Yi Xian's footsteps? Bang! With just 1 sword strike, Yi Xian blasted open the Mad Leopard Sacred Dynasty's border gate, and then charged in. Not good, an expert is breaking through. The Mad Leopard tribe soldiers on the city wall shouted. But at this time, Yi Xian had already killed his way in. As long as it was a foreign race, he would kill without mercy. When 2 nations were at war, no one could guarantee that they would win every battle. Hence, both sides had captives from the other. This time Yi Xian could save the captives from the Wild Leopard Holy Dynasty. Behind the border was the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty's army camp. There were a total of 100,000 Mad Leopard army soldiers stationed at the border. Haha, an army of 100,000? Are you preparing to attack soon? Turn into souls under my sword. Yixian laughed inwardly and immediately launched an attack. Heavenly Emperor Sword Art. Sword Emperor / Incomplete Sword Intent. A supreme being martial arts that had fused with incomplete sword intent had terrifying power. One sword strike could cut the entire army camp in half. One sword strike could kill at least 1,000 people. Yixian could slash more than 10 times in a second, which meant that Yixian could kill more than 10,000 people in a second. Killing more than 10,000 people in a second was something that not even a supreme being could do, but Yixian could because he had comprehended sword intent. The entire border of the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty was in an uproar. After all, Yixian, the god of slaughter, had arrived. The Mad Leopard army soldiers were well trained, but who would have thought that Yixian would only need a second to break through the border gate? By the time they reacted, more than 10,000 people had already died. The remaining people were still waiting for orders because they couldn't find Yixian. Most of them didn't even know what had happened. In Yixian's eyes, these foreign races were living targets. In less than 10 seconds, Yixian had killed more than 80,000 people, and the remaining 20,000 were cut in half. Only a few hundred people were unharmed. Then Yixian collected the corpses in interspatial rings while killing the surviving foreign races. If the beasts were compared to the humans, the beasts would be stronger than the humans. What the humans knew, the beasts also knew. However, many of the beasts had special abilities. For example, the Snake Demon Clan could disguise themselves, while the Fox Demon Clan could charm and control others. Now that the two countries were at war, Yixian didn't show any mercy. He killed the foreign races on sight. In just a few minutes, the corpses of the foreign races were collected by Yixian into the Devour space. The entire border gate was covered in a sea of blood. 100,000 interspatial rings. What a great profit! At this time, Yixian had already collected everything into the Devour space. Although it was a war, there were still some things in the interspatial rings that were useful to him. After devouring those useful things, Yixian's strength increased by a lot. His success rate of passing the tribulation also increased, reaching 65%. My physique and true chi have improved. Now, even if I don't use my advancement points, just the battle merits from the 130,000 corpses will be enough for me to pass the tribulation. Yixian thought to himself. However, he suddenly changed his mind. He didn't want to return to the imperial capital first. It was better to kill in the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty. Not everyone in the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty was bad. There were also many ordinary people. Therefore, Yixian chose those who were stronger, such as the city lords. But before that, he had to rescue the Sunflame army soldiers who were captured by the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty. There was a place to hold the Sunflame army captives at the border, but there weren't many of them, only 1,000. After releasing them, Yixian sent them back to the Sunflame army's border gate. As for himself, he decided to enter the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty. Although the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty is the same as the Sunflame Holy Dynasty, a low-grade Holy Dynasty, the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty is stronger than the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. It is said that some of the city lords are Supreme Being experts. If I can kill a Supreme Being expert, I can more or less become a Supreme Being expert. Yixian thought to himself as he moved away from the border gate. The Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty's border gate had been completely wiped out by him. With the eye of perception, even if the enemy hid well, they couldn't escape from him. Therefore, there was no one left in the border gate. When the Sunflame army captives returned to the border gate, they would report this matter to the general guarding the gate. Then, the general guarding the gate would definitely send troops to occupy the border gate. Chapter 8:11. With the arrival of Yixian, the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty's city was once again plunged into a bloodbath. However, it was only in the City Lord mansion. There were no Supreme Being experts in the city. After Yixian killed his way in, he killed all the high-level half-step Supreme Beings in the City Lord mansion in less than half a minute and plundered their belongings. After devouring all the items that could increase his strength, Yixian's success rate increased again, reaching 67%. The Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty should know about the loss of the border soon. I have to move faster and increase my success rate to 100% before they react. Then, I will undergo the tribulation and become a Supreme Being. Yixian thought in his heart, then left again, heading for the next city. The Holy Adjudicator Union judged that his action was no longer considered a siege, so the supreme being experts of the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty could attack him. After all, he was alone and did not lead an army. Fortunately, his speed was very fast and he had a precise target. It took him less than 2 hours to go from one city to another. 2 hours of travel was just for a few minutes, but the harvest of these few minutes could increase his success rate by a lot. In one day, Yixian swept through 10 cities of the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty. At this time, his success rate had reached 80%. If he turned back now and merged with his doppelganger, he would have a 100% success rate even if he did not exchange for dragon luck or use his advancement points. However, he did not choose to go back. 80%. In 1 or 2 more days, I will have a 100% success rate. At that time, I will condense the Supreme Being Golden Body and become a Supreme Being. Yixian's eyes lit up. Supreme Being was a realm he yearned for. Now that the breakthrough was imminent, he did not want to stay for a moment. However, after he swept through a few more cities, he encountered a problem. At this time there was a big city in front of him. It was said that the city lord was a Supreme Being expert, so he was considering whether to rush in and fight with this Supreme Being expert. The wealth of a Supreme Being expert was definitely worth 10 cities. After hesitating for a moment, he made a decision. Kill. He put on the dragon-patterned golden armor and killed his way into the city. The Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty was a foreign race. Adult leopard men were generally more than 2 meters tall. Yixian was about the same height as a female leopard man. The dragon-patterned golden armor could prevent him from being recognized, but leopard men's legs and legs were different human legs. Yixian could not disguise himself, so he could only kill his way in and alert the Supreme Being expert. "A human has entered the city," shouted a leopard man. Yixian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to these leopard men, who only had 70 to 80% of the emperors will seal their bodies. He directly charged towards the city lord's mansion. His aura isn't weak. He's slightly stronger than the leopard man I fought before. Yixian, who possessed the eye of perception, instantly determined the other party's cultivation level. However, when he was attacked by the foreign races, his success rate was only 53%. Now his success rate had increased to 80%. This meant that his physique had improved by quite a bit. There. Over there. Yixian locked onto the aura of the sovereign expert and directly slashed out with his sword. Whoosh! The sword ray pierced through the air, and the wind whistled. The Supreme Being expert in the city lord mansion sensed a powerful force closing in on him. His expression changed as he dodged the attack with a flash of his body. However, the half-step Supreme Being expert behind him could not dodge the attack. Rip! The leopard man was cut in half. "Who is it?" the leopard man shouted. He did not even look at the corpse and dashed out of the house. However, what answered him were streaks of sharp sword gleams. Poof! 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 The leopard man began to move quickly, dodging the sword rays. His expression was gloomy because he had sensed the sword intent in the sword rays. "It's sword intent. Who wants to kill me?" The leopard man's heart trembled. In the next moment he saw Yixian in golden armor. "You want to kill me?" The leopard man took out a big sword. Now that Yixian was wrapped in the dragon-patterned golden armor, his face could not be seen, so the leopard man could not guess what race he was. Among the beasts there were many races that were similar to humans. For example, the fox race had a similar body to humans, except for different ears and an extra tail. "You know what you've done. Today I'm here to kill you," Yixian said coldly. He was now able to lie seriously. He had never seen this leopard man before, and he only had one purpose in killing him, which was to gain benefits. However, he would lie if he could. After all, it did not cost him money. "You're not even a Supreme Being yet. Do you think you can kill me with sword intent alone?" The leopard man snorted coldly. "We'll see if I can kill you or not after we fight." Yixian did not waste any more time and directly attacked with his sword. Heavenly Sword Art. Sword Emperor slash. Incomplete sword intent. Almost at the same time, the leopard man attacked. Dominating Sky Slash. Boom! The two slashes collided, and the shockwaves blew down the surrounding walls. In the first round of attacks, no one gained the upper hand. However, because he was in the leopard man's territory, he quickly rushed out of the city. When two supreme beings fought, the slightest mistake could destroy the entire city. Yi Xian did not want to take advantage of the situation, and chased after him. At the same time, he felt relieved because he saw that the leopard man's supreme being had not comprehended sword intent. Sword intent was not something that all supreme beings could comprehend, but there were many supreme beings in the wild leopard sacred dynasty who had comprehended intent. If the leopard man had comprehended sword intent, then Yi Xian would definitely not be his opponent. Fortunately, he had not. Boom! 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 The two ran wildly, and they kept exchanging blows. At the moment, Yi Xian had improved the heavenly sword art to 90%, and the heavenly dragon roaming steps to 90%. This time he wanted to improve the heavenly sword art to 100%. When the time came, he would definitely be able to kill the leopard man. Soon the two arrived outside the city. "Kid, you're a human, right?" The leopard man's supreme being suddenly asked. Yi Xian, who was under the dragon-patterned golden armor, raised his eyebrows. He did not expect the leopard man to guess, so he could not help but ask, "How did you guess?" "Humph! There is no race in the beast race that can run like you." The leopard man's supreme being snorted coldly. "No matter what race you are, you will die here today. You will be the one to die." Chapter 8:12. There was a fundamental difference between a half-step supreme being and a true supreme being. But Yi Xian relied on his sword god bloodline and incomplete sword intent to fight evenly with his opponent. Breakthrough, breakthrough. As long as the imperial heavenly sword art breaks through, it will be time for him to die. Yi Xian muttered in his heart. The sword god bloodline increased his sword skill comprehension by 50%. Yi Xian believed that he would be able to raise the imperial heavenly sword art to 100% mastery in this battle. Boom! 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 Where did this kid come from? Why have I never heard of him? The leopard man's supreme being was very surprised. He was only a city lord, and only the royal family of the Mad Leopard dynasty knew that Yi Xian had comprehended sword intent. It was just that the news had not reached him yet. A half-step supreme being already had the battle prowess of a supreme being. If Yi Xian broke through to the supreme being level, wouldn't killing a supreme being be as easy as cutting vegetables? Humph, no matter what, I will kill this human genius. The leopard man's supreme being thought to himself. Imperial heavenly sword art. Imperial slash. He gem and slash. Their attacks collided and then dissipated. At this moment, the two had already fought more than 100 rounds, and it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. But at this moment, ding! The proficiency of the Imperial Heavenly Sword Art has increased. It is now at 100% mastery, and its power has doubled. A system notification sounded. Yi Xian's lips suddenly curled up. Now it was time for him to erupt. The Imperial Heavenly Sword Art had finally reached 100% mastery. Now Yi Xian's attacks would not be evenly matched with the Leopard Man's Supreme Being. Die! Yi Xian shouted in his heart and slashed out with his sword with all his strength. Imperial Heavenly Sword Art. Imperial Slash. A cold light flashed and instantly dispersed the Leopard Man's Supreme Being's attack, and then slashed his body. Puff! The Leopard Man's Supreme Being's golden body was broken, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The wound was so deep that his bones could be seen. If Yi Xian did not comprehend sword intent, this Imperial Slash would probably only cause a small amount of damage. But after it was merged with sword intent, its power was much stronger than before. The Leopard Man's sovereign didn't expect Yi Xian's attack to suddenly become so powerful, and was directly sent flying. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian quickly flew over. This slash, I will take your life. Yi Xian once again slashed out with his sword, aiming straight for the leopard sovereign's throat. No? Slash slash. Slash slash was slash slash slashes slash was slashes slash slashes slashes slash. The sword intent is too powerful. Just the incomplete sword intent allowed me to cross a huge gap and kill a supreme being expert. Slash slash. 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 S slash. 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 Slashes slash. Slash. Slash slash. S slash. Slash. However, an attack that was infused with sword will could easily break through the sovereign golden body. It was truly a divine skill. Immediately, Yixian hurriedly rushed over and put away the other party's universe ring and corpse. The wealth of a Supreme Being expert was definitely not small. After Yixian took a look, he swallowed everything that was useful. The success rate of the tribulation is now 100%. Yixian was overjoyed. Previously, his success rate was only 80%. Now, his success rate had increased to 100%. What he wanted to do the most right now was to find a place and undergo the supremacy tribulation. Humph! Let's break through here in the Wild Leopard Dynasty. Yixian grinned, muttered a few words and left the area. Just now there was too much of a commotion and people would disturb him. Therefore, he found a place deep in the mountains and forests to break through. Ding! Would the host like to begin the Supreme Being tribulation? Yes. After Yixian answered in his mind, the surrounding heaven and earth Yuanqi quickly gathered above his head and began to condense into tribulation lightning. I have the dragon pattern golden armor with a 100% success rate. After the breakthrough, I will teach the Wild Leopard Dynasty a lesson. Yixian was very excited. He, who was only half a step away from being a Supreme Being, had the strength to kill a Supreme Being expert. If he broke through to the Supreme Being level, his true energy would have a qualitative leap, and killing Supreme Beings of the same level would be as easy as cutting vegetables. Of course, when he condensed the Supreme Being golden body, the dragon-patterned golden armor would be useless. The Supreme Being tribulation lightning is about to descend. Countdown of 3 seconds. After hearing the notification, Yixian did not think too much. He would think about it after breaking through to the Supreme Being level. 2 seconds. 1 second. Boom! Suddenly there was a flash in the sky, and an extremely powerful Supreme Being tribulation lightning struck down, hitting Yixian in the head. At that moment, the Supreme Being tribulation lightning's power was weakened by 20% by the dragon-patterned golden armor, and then it entered Yixian's body. Yixian's body was very strong. Although it was a little painful, he could still bear it. At that moment, Yixian could feel that the environment in his body had undergone a tremendous change. His muscles, bones, skin, flesh, internal organs, and even his brain had a qualitative leap. In the blink of an eye, his aura skyrocketed by several times. Ding! The host has successfully broken through. The host is currently at the first tribulation Supreme Being level. Ding! Beginning to condense the Supreme Being golden body. The current completion rate is 1%. Ding! Beginning to condense the Supreme Being golden body. The current completion rate is 2%. The system notifications rang out one after another. Yixian's smile became brighter and brighter. After working so hard for so long, he had finally become a Supreme Being. Although the first prince had survived the Supreme Being tribulation lightning, the Supreme Being golden body had not been fully condensed, so he had been easily killed by him. If the first prince's Supreme Being golden body had been fully condensed, his sword might not have been able to kill the first prince. Ding! Beginning to condense the Supreme Being golden body. The current completion rate is 10%. The completion rate was increasing bit by bit. Yixian estimated that it would take less than a minute for the Supreme Being golden body to be fully condensed. Time passed little by little. Yixian sat cross-legged on the mountain. However, just as he was condensing the Supreme Being golden body, a figure suddenly stepped into the range of his senses. That's fast. It's the Supreme Being of the Wild Leopard clan. Yixian raised his eyebrows. It seemed that the other party was attracted by the Supreme Being tribulation. Although Yixian's Supreme Being golden body had not been fully condensed, it did not matter. Soon, a 2-meter-tall figure entered Yixian's sight. I didn't expect you to succeed in the tribulation, but from the looks of it, you haven't fully condensed the Supreme Being golden body. TSK. What a pity. You're going to die in my hands. The Leopard Man Supreme Being sneered and threw a punch at Yixian's head. Haha. Yixian sat cross-legged on the ground and swung his Wolf-Fang sword. Bang! The Leopard Man Supreme Being's fist was instantly split open. The next moment, the Leopard Man Supreme Being's head was thrown into the air. Instant kill. He originally wanted to make a fortune, but he did not expect to be killed in an instant. A sword broke his attack, broke his Supreme Being golden body, and cut off his head. This was sword intent. When the Leopard Man Supreme Being realized what had happened, it was too late. Chapter 8:13. Plop! The Leopard Man Supreme Being's head rolled a few times on the ground, and the burly headless corpse fell to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Is this the strength of a Supreme Being? Yixian's confidence suddenly exploded. He was now an early-stage First Tribulation Supreme Being, and this Leopard Man Supreme Being was also an early-stage First Tribulation Supreme Being, but he could kill him instantly. After the Leopardman's death, Yixian did not move, but just sat there quietly. After a while, the completion rate finally reached 100%. Ding! Refining the Supreme Being Golden Body completed. The system notified. Hearing this, Yixian slowly got up and stretched. Now the dragon pattern golden armor was useless. He walked over and put away the Leopard Man Supreme Being's interspatial ring and corpse. There are quite a lot of things. Yixian nodded with satisfaction. There were still many good things in his interspatial ring. The things he had devoured before were all heavenly treasures that could increase the success rate of his tribulation. Now he was going to devour all of them. His aura skyrocketed. Now that I'm an early-stage First Supreme Being, devouring heavenly treasures can not only increase the strength of my true energy, but also improve the Supreme Being Golden Body. My strength is probably comparable to a mid-stage First Supreme Being. Yixian narrowed his eyes and said in his heart, an early-stage First Tribulation Supreme Being could also be called an early-stage First Supreme Being. In the future, when he broke through to the peak of First Supreme Being, he would have to undergo another tribulation. At that time he would have to face 2 Supreme Being Tribulation Lightning, and its power would be much stronger than the one Yixian faced just now. Now that I've broken through to the Supreme Being level, Wild Leopard Holy Dynasty, you're doomed. Yixian grinned, and in the next moment, he left behind afterimages as he rushed out. The Wild Leopard Holy Dynasty was stronger than the Sunflame Holy Dynasty, and there were many Supreme Being experts. Therefore Yixian's current target was these Supreme Being experts. After breaking through, he had the Supreme Being Golden Body, and his speed was more than twice as fast as before. Even if he encountered a mid-stage First Supreme Being expert, he was not afraid. Half a day later he arrived at the second big city. He directly destroyed the city gate and killed his way in. Although the Eye of Perception could sense the Supreme Being in the City Lord manner, Yixian's Eye of Revelation could also see through the bodies of Supreme Beings after his breakthrough. He immediately locked onto the Leopard Man Supreme Being. Imperial Heavenly Sword Technique, Imperial Slash. Yixian rushed to the outside of the City Lord's mansion and slashed out with his sword. What? The Leopard Man Supreme Being had just reacted when the sword light arrived in front of him. Hiss! A head fell to the ground. Another instant kill. Weak too weak. Yixian shook his head and rushed in to collect the corpse and the universe ring of Leopard Man supremacy. His cultivation base improved once again. After breaking through to Supreme Being, Yixian's battle prowess had increased by at least 2 to 3 times. He could easily kill Supreme Beings of the same level. Although he had never fought with a level 1 Supreme Being expert before, he was still confident. However, after breaking through, his experience points had also increased greatly, so he was on the move again. The Wild Leopard Man dynasty had just found out that Yixian had infiltrated their territory. At the same time, they had also received news that many city lords had been killed. They were sending experts to surround and kill Yixian. However, Yixian's whereabouts were unpredictable. It was not that easy to catch him. He had killed his way from the south of the Wild Leopard Man dynasty to the west, then to the north and finally to the east. In total, he had killed 17 Supreme Being Leopard Men, which took him nearly 10 days. At the same time, he had also raised his cultivation base to the peak of level 1 Supreme Being. Given a few more days, he would be able to break through to level 1 Supreme Being. However, just as Yixian had killed the 18th Supreme Being, and was about to leave the city in search of his next target, 3 figures suddenly stepped into the range of his senses. What powerful auras, level 1 Supreme Being experts, and 3 of them at that. Could they be the experts sent by the Wild Leopard Man dynasty to hunt me down? Yixian raised his eyebrows. Ever since he had broken through, he had wanted to fight against level 1 Supreme Being experts. Now it seemed that his wish would come true. So what if they are level 1 Supreme Being experts? I will kill them all. Yixian did not evade. He rushed out of the city and met them head-on. Heavenly Emperor Sword Art, Sword Emperor Slash. Incomplete Sword Intent. In an instant, Yixian attacked more than 10 times, and all of them were aimed at the same person. The speed of the slashes was astonishing. The unlucky person had just reacted when he was hit by the continuous attacks. Boom! 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 The level 1 Supreme Being Leopard Man was sent flying. There was a big hole in his chest and his heart was crushed. He died instantly. What? The other 2 leopard men were shocked. Wasn't Yixian's strength a little too strong? How dare you kill our Wild Leopard Man Dynasty's Imperial Consecrator? You are courting death. One Leopard Man Supreme Being shouted. In truth, he was afraid because Yixian had such strength. If the 3 of them joined forces, they would have a great chance of winning, but now one of them had died. He did not know if the 2 of them would succeed. After all, the opponent had comprehended the sword intent. In the blink of an eye, Yixian came into contact with the 2 Leopard Man Supreme Beings. After knowing that Yixian had the ability to kill them instantly, the 2 Leopard Man Supreme Beings did not dare to be careless, because if they were not careful, they would be killed by Yixian. Rumble! The sound of battle was louder than thunder. Yixian was facing the 2 Leopard Man Supreme Beings, but he did not show the slightest bit of worry. Let me see the strength of level 1 Supreme Beings. Yixian's eyes flashed, and he directly faced the claw of one of them. Boom! The claw tore 3 holes in his Supreme Being golden body, but in the next moment the 3 holes began to repair. The bloodline of the divine tree of life. What? That's impossible! One of the Leopard Man Supreme Being exclaimed. The Supreme Being golden body was indeed powerful, but it was extremely difficult to repair. Without using heavenly treasures or healing elixirs, it would not be able to repair itself. However, the Leopard Man Supreme Being saw Yixian's wounds heal. If it was not for the blood flowing out, he would have suspected that he had not broken Yixian's Supreme Being golden body. Haha, the bloodline of the divine tree of life can even repair the Supreme Being golden body. Yixian laughed 3 times, and while his opponent was still in shock, he attacked with lightning speed. Boom! 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 A series of cold flashes flashed, and another Leopard Man Supreme Being was killed by Yixian. Now the last Leopard Man Supreme Being had lost all will to fight, and he turned tail and ran. You want to leave? Yixian's eyes were cold. He swept to the side of a corpse and took the interspatial ring. Ding! The host has broken through. The host is currently at level 1 Tribulation Supreme Being. Breakthrough. Chapter 8:14. Die. Yixian strength soared as his cultivation level increased. He looked at the fleeing Leopard Man Supreme Being and slashed with his sword. Whoosh! The speed of the slash increased, and in the blink of an eye, it swept past the Leopard Man Supreme Being's throat. Plop! The Leopard Man Supreme Being's corpse fell to the ground, and his head flew hundreds of meters away. The battle had only lasted 3 seconds, but Yixian had already killed 3 Leopard Man Supreme Beings. Such strength was enough to challenge the royal family of the Mad Leopard Sacred Dynasty. It's just the incomplete sword intent, but it actually gave me the ability to kill an expert 1 level higher than me. Yixian sighed and put away the other 2 interspatial rings and the corpses. If he sent the corpses back, the Sun Flame Emperor would be scared to death. He just didn't know how much draconic luck these corpses could be exchanged for. The Imperial Heavenly Tyrant body in the Imperial Heavenly Technique relied on absorbing the dynasty's draconic luck to strengthen the Supreme Being golden body. If there was a large amount of draconic luck, Yixian's Supreme Being golden body might be comparable to a Supreme Being golden body at the peak of Supreme Being golden body. It's said that the Mad Leopard Sacred Dynasty's imperial capital has a second Tribulation Supreme Being. It's better not to provoke them. I'll go back and raise the level of my doppelganger. Yixian gave up on the idea of going to the Mad Leopard Sacred Dynasty's imperial capital and went back to the border. Previously, when he broke through the border, the Sun Flame Army had also sent troops to the border, but unfortunately, the Mad Leopard Sacred Dynasty had taken it back. Now that Yixian had broken through to the Supreme Being, he couldn't leave from the border. At least he couldn't kill anyone. The Holy Verdict Union was secretive and powerful. Yixian couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't have some mysterious means to see him kill people. Stop! Who are you? When Yixian returned to the Leopard Man's sacred dynasty's border, someone desperately stopped him. Open the city gates. I want to go. Yixian didn't waste any time and directly released his aura. Supreme Being, Supreme Being. The Mad Leopard Army's general was shocked, but he quickly reacted. The person in front of him should be the mysterious expert who had wreaked havoc in the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty. Unexpectedly, he actually came to the border. Open the door. Otherwise, your 200,000-strong Mad Leopard army will all become ghosts under my sword. Yixian said coldly. If you dare to make a move, there will be experts from the Holy Verdict Union who will deal with you. The voice of the general of the Wild Leopard Army trembled slightly. He was only a half-step sovereign with 100% of his body sealed. In front of a true sovereign, he was just an ant. Even if Yixian used a finger to stab him to death, he would still be able to do so. If that's the case, then I'll go back and slaughter all of your cities. Yixian snorted coldly. After he finished speaking, he turned around and prepared to leave. Wait a minute. The Leopardman general called out to Yixian. Soon Yixian passed through the border. Although the other party was a general of the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty, when he thought of Yixian's fierce reputation, he still compromised. After letting Yixian pass, he was very nervous. If the Mad Leopard Holy Dynasty's royal family found out about this, he was afraid that he would be executed. After passing through the border, Yixian quickly returned to the Sunflame Holy Dynasty's border. Open the door, I'm back. Yixian stood in front of the city gates and shouted. A general of the city guards poked his head out, his face filled with joy. He immediately ordered people to open the city gates. General Yi, you're finally back, the general said. His current idol was Yixian. After all, Yixian had broken through the enemy's border and killed 100,000 Mad Leopard Army soldiers. He was simply a military god. Where's Senior Eagle Eye? Yixian asked. He didn't sense the aura of Consecrator Liang and the other two. Could it be that they went back first? Hearing this question, the general's face changed. He said, there's a huge change in the imperial capital. Someone called the 3 consecrators back. Moreover, General Yi, you must not go back. What's the huge change? Yixian's heart trembled, and he quickly asked. I heard that a large number of Supreme Being experts have killed their way to the imperial capital. The general replied. A large number of Supreme Being experts? Yixian raised his eyebrows. Could it be the Supreme Being experts of the foreign races who were hiding in the Sunflame Holy Dynasty? I know. Yixian nodded silently. Although he was told not to go back, he couldn't sit idly by. After all, he was now a first-class consecrator of the Sunflame Holy Dynasty's royal family. If it weren't for the rewards from the Sunflame Holy Dynasty's emperor, how could he have broken through to the Supreme Being realm so quickly? General Yi Yu? Before the general could finish his words, Yixian had already disappeared from where he was, heading towards the imperial capital. In less than a day, he directly arrived at the imperial capital. However, before he could get close, he felt a powerful aura. So many Supreme Being experts. Originally, the foreign races wanted to slowly infiltrate the Sunflame Holy Dynasty and take control of it. But they didn't expect their plan to be disrupted. Now they want to take it by force? Yixian's heart trembled. At this time, there were more than 15 Supreme Being experts outside the imperial capital. Half of them were peak Supreme Being experts, and 3 of them had stronger auras. They were probably Second Tribulation Supreme Beings. This is troublesome. There are actually Second Tribulation Supreme Beings. Yixian's heart trembled, and he quickly restrained his aura and approached. Above the imperial capital's imperial palace. Old man, have you thought it through? Submit to the Snake Demon Dynasty, or choose to be destroyed? An expert of the Snake Demon clan asked loudly. The original form of the Snake Demon clan was somewhat ugly. Their bodies were covered in green stripes, and their eyes were very strange. Their tongues were like snakes, and they could definitely scare children to tears. However, no one cared about that now. It was a matter of life and death for the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. At this time, a group of Supreme Being experts flew out of the palace. Although there were more than 20 of them, Their auras were much weaker than the 15 supreme beings of the foreign races. The Sunflame Holy Dynasty would rather die than submit to the foreign races, shouted a human old man. He was the Grand Imperial Emeritus of the Sunflame Holy Dynasty, the only second tribulation supreme being in the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. However, he was only an early second tribulation supreme being. You are the old man from the Sunflame Holy Dynasty who comprehended 10% of the sword intent? Good, in that case I will destroy the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. The leader of the Snake Demon clan nodded. Then the group of experts behind him came forward. A great battle was about to break out. This is a matter of life and death for the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. Please give me your dragon luck, shouted the Grand Imperial Emeritus. Immediately, the 20 Supreme Being experts behind him didn't waste any time and gave him their dragon luck. It was too late for him to refine his dragon luck, so he could only use his dragon luck to fight. There were 3 early second tribulation supreme beings on the other side, so he had to stop them. Don't let them succeed. Go, shouted the Snake Demon clan's old man. He led the 14 supreme beings and charged forward. This time, there were only 2 supreme beings attacking the Sunflame Holy Dynasty. One was the Snake Demon clan, and the other was the Wild Leopard clan. Chapter 8:15. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, the 30-odd figures started fighting. If they were to really compare, the Sunfire Imperial family's strength would be weaker than the other party. Fortunately, the retired emperor had comprehended the sword intent and had even transformed it to 10% sword intent. He alone was able to block 3 experts of the same level. Seeing that the battle had started, Yixian couldn't just stand by and watch. He immediately joined the battle. However, he didn't fly into the sky. Instead, he ran wildly on the ground. Imperial Heavenly Sword Art. Imperial Slash. Yixian's speed on the ground was extremely fast. He was comparable to a peak Supreme Being expert. His attacks were even more terrifying. He could kill a peak Supreme Being expert with just a few strikes. However, the outsiders also had experts who had comprehended sword intent, so the Imperial family suffered many casualties. Whoosh! 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 Slashes flew through the air. Yixian looked for the outsiders that he was confident in killing. He wanted to reduce the pressure on the Imperial family's experts first. His appearance was also noticed by many people. Why is this kid back? And he even broke through to peak Supreme Being? The retired emperor recognized Yixian. Yixian actually broke through from half Supreme Being to peak Supreme Being and peak Supreme Being within a month. His talent was monstrous. Not only did the retired emperor recognize him, but the outsiders also recognized him. It's that kid. I'll capture him. An expert from the demonic snake clan noticed Yixian and immediately swooped down. Not good. The retired emperor's expression changed. However, in the next moment he heard Yixian shout, "Come at me." In an instant, Yixian started fighting with the peak Supreme Being expert. The latter wasn't weak either. He could fight with Yixian. At this moment, "Old man, you dare to be distracted in a 1 versus 3 situation?" The second tribulation supreme being from the demonic snake clan sneered and threw a punch. Boom! The retired emperor was sent flying. However, the retired emperor's imperial heavenly tyrant body was extremely high. His golden sovereign body was extremely strong. The punch only caused a superficial wound. The emperor of the Holy Dynasty is indeed powerful, but you will still die today. The demonic snake clan elder shouted. The Snake Demon Holy Dynasty was strong, and he couldn't get a lot of dragon luck. So, he started to think about the low-level Holy Dynasties. Not only would he be able to expand the territory of the Snake Demon Dynasty, but he would also be able to obtain a large amount of dragon luck. This old man swears to protect Sunflame with his life. Die! The retired emperor shouted as he slashed his sword at the demonic snake clan elder. The power of this strike was dozens of times stronger than Yixian's attack. After all, he was a second tribulation supreme venerable, who had comprehended 10% of sword intent. Even an elder from the demonic snake clan of the same level would be severely injured by this attack. Unfortunately, the retired emperor was currently fighting 1 against 3. However, Yixian was very supportive. While the retired emperor was talking to the old man, he directly sent his opponent flying with a single strike of his sword. Die! Yixian swiftly swept over and slashed out with his sword. Hiss! The Peak Supreme Venerable Expert's head flew up. Although he managed to hold on for a while, he couldn't escape death. However, what surprised Yixian was yet to come. After killing the Peak Supreme Venerable Expert from the demonic snake clan, he suddenly heard a system notification. Ding! The incomplete sword intent has transformed into 10% sword intent. The system beep caused Yixian's entire body to tremble. His sword intent had broken through? When he only had incomplete sword intent, he could already kill a Peak Supreme Venerable Expert. Now that his sword intent had increased to 10%, wouldn't he be able to fight against a second Tribulation Supreme Venerable? Immediately, he took the interspatial ring and devoured the good things inside to increase his strength. In the next moment, he directly charged into the sky. Die! Yixian attacked a second Tribulation Supreme Venerable. An attack that contained 10% of sword intent was definitely enough to threaten a second Tribulation Supreme Venerable. What? 10% of sword intent? The foreign tribe experts were shocked. The demonic snake clan elder also widened his eyes and hurriedly threw out a punch to block Yixian's attack. Fortunately, he had comprehended incomplete fist intent. Otherwise, he would have been hit. This guy must not be allowed to live. The demonic snake clan elder's eyes were cold. However, the retired emperor was very strong. He was able to fight against 3 of them with ease. At the same time, his sovereign golden body was extremely strong. The 3 second Tribulation Supreme Venerables of the foreign tribe might not be able to kill him. If the retired emperor held them back while Yixian quickly cleaned up the rest of the foreign tribe experts, they would definitely lose. Let's go! The demonic snake clan elder shouted. They couldn't continue fighting. Otherwise, they would be the ones to die. My Sunflame Sacred Dynasty is not a place where you can come and go as you please. The retired emperor shouted. Go after them. With Yixian around, it was impossible for them to lose this time. After Yixian saw the gap between him and a second Tribulation Supreme Venerable, he immediately turned around and went to kill the other Supreme Venerables. The demonic snake clan elder's face was gloomy. It seemed that they were going to suffer heavy losses this time. A group of people fled while a group of people chased. By the time they reached the outskirts of the imperial capital, there were only 3 Supremes left. They were the 3 second Tribulation Supremes. 9 of the 12 Supreme Venerables had died at the hands of Yixian. Yixian had gained a lot. Bastards, you'd better remember this. The demonic snake clan elder shouted and ran away without looking back. Stop chasing. The retired emperor stopped everyone because he knew that they couldn't catch up to the 3 second Tribulation Supreme Venerables. After all, 2 of the 3 were from the Wild Leopard clan. They were extremely fast when running in a straight line. Even the retired emperor couldn't catch up to them. Then they quickly reported the casualties. A total of 7 Supreme Venerables had died, including 3 members of the imperial family. This time, if Yixian hadn't appeared in time, the casualties would have been much more severe. Yixian, this old man thanks you. The retired emperor cupped his fist at Yixian. Senior, you don't have to do this. I'm also a revered elder of the imperial family. Yixian replied. Since he was paid, he had to help. Since he had accepted the revered elder's salary, he had to do something for the imperial family. He still had this bit of integrity. Let's go back and talk. After the retired emperor finished speaking, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Although his sovereign golden body was powerful, he had been hit several times by the demonic snake clan elder's fist intent. The aura in his body was extremely chaotic. The sovereign golden body was difficult to repair, so he had to treat his injuries immediately. Everyone quickly returned to the imperial palace and began to treat their injuries one after another. Yixian stood guard for them. Previously, when he fought with the Peak Supreme Venerables, he had been hit several times. However, the Divine Tree of Life had healed him quickly, so he was still in peak condition. Soon, the supreme beings of the imperial family stabilized their injuries and left to treat their injuries. Even the retired emperor did the same. The emperor of the Sunflame Dynasty didn't participate in that battle. He immediately went to find Yixian. Yixian, you did a good job this time. The imperial family owes you a favor. The Sunflame Dynasty emperor thanked him. Chapter 8:16. It's my duty. Yixian grinned. Then he handed over a universe ring and said, "Your Majesty, this is the spoils of war from my trip. I wonder how much dragon luck it can be exchanged for?" The emperor took a look at the interspatial ring, and his expression changed drastically. He looked at Yi Xian with a strange expression. The hundreds of thousands of corpses of the berserk leopard army were nothing. The most important thing was that there were so many corpses of supreme martial artists. However, when the emperor thought about how Yi Xian had killed a peak supreme martial artist, he didn't think much of it. "Very well. I will exchange all of these for dragon luck. However, it will take a day. Come and find me tomorrow," the emperor said. "All right." Yi Xian's eyes lit up and he left immediately. Dragon luck could be refined by the Imperial Heavenly Tyrant body to upgrade the Sovereign Golden body. He wondered how much dragon luck he could exchange for. He was looking forward to it. After today's battle, the Emperor of the Sunflame Empire guessed that the other party wouldn't come back so soon. However, they didn't dare to relax. They quickly used a special method to summon the supreme martial artists back. The next day, Yi Xian went to look for the Emperor of the Sunflame Empire again. He couldn't wait to upgrade his Sovereign Golden body. This token contains the dragon luck you have obtained. In addition, there are 3 Imperial Golden pills. Consume one when you are refining the dragon luck. It will increase the speed of refining the dragon luck. The Emperor of the Sunflame Empire passed Yi Xian a token and a brocade box. Yi Xian received the token and directly absorbed the enormous amount of dragon luck into his body. Previously, it took him half a month to refine the dragon luck. Now that he had such a huge amount of dragon luck, it would take him a long time to refine it. Fortunately, he had the Imperial Golden pills. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Yi Xian quickly thanked the Emperor. "All right, the other races could come at any time. Hurry up and refine the dragon luck," the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire said. "Yes, Your Majesty." Yi Xian nodded and left immediately. However, after he left, the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire looked at his back and revealed a strange smile. After leaving, Yi Xian hurriedly returned to his house by the lake and closed the door. Now that he had such a huge amount of dragon luck, if he could refine it, his Sovereign Golden body and increase his survival ability. Imperial Golden pills that can increase the dragon luck. Yi Xian take a dragon luck, you take a long time to refine the dragon luck. Refining dragon luck required time. And this Royal Heavenly Golden pill could increase the refining speed. It was a good item. However, when the Imperial Sky Golden pill entered his stomach, Yi Xian couldn't help but raise his brows. This was because he had heard a system notification. Soul-absorbing pill, what kind of pill is this? Yi Xian couldn't help but tremble when he saw the poison effects listed by the system. The soul-assimilating pill was a type of pill that could control a person. After consuming it, the person would be controlled and submit to something, such as the golden bell, and become a puppet. Fortunately, there were some ingredients in the soul-assimilating pill that Yi Xian was immune to. Without those ingredients, the soul-assimilating pill was just an ordinary poison to him. Otherwise, he would have fallen victim to the soul-assimilating pill's effects. "Damn it, the Emperor is trying to control me?" Yi Xian immediately reacted. However, he felt that something was wrong in the next moment. The Emperor gave him a different feeling compared to a month ago. Moreover, if the Emperor wanted to control him because he had comprehended the sword intent when he was only a half-step supreme, why didn't he do it earlier? That meant that the Emperor was probably a fake. The demonic snake tribe. Damn it, the Emperor was secretly killed while I was away. Is the current Emperor an expert from the demonic snake tribe in disguise? Yi Xian sorted out his thoughts. Just then, ding! Suddenly, a crisp sound entered Yi Xian's ears. As expected, he thinks that I've consumed the pill and is trying to control me? Yi Xian's eyes flickered. He had already sensed that someone had landed in the pavilion outside the small building in the middle of the lake. The ringing of the bell just now was probably a voice used to control him. Although the poison isn't completely cured, it won't affect me. Fine, I'll expose you. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and walked out. Sure enough, there was already a figure in the pavilion outside. It was the Emperor of the Sun Flame Empire in his golden robes. Tisk tsk. Young man, you're too naive. The Emperor grinned and continued to ring the silver bell in his hand. Yi Xian slowly walked over. The Emperor thought that he had been tricked. So he was not prepared at all. However, even if he was prepared, he was still no match for Yi Xian because he was only an early-stage supreme being. "Let me expose your disguise," Yi Xian growled. He suddenly took out the Wolfang sword and slashed at the emperor. A cold light flashed. Before the emperor could react, his wrist holding the silver bell was cut off. Blood spurted out. What? The emperor widened his eyes. He did not understand why Yi Xian suddenly attacked. Only those who had consumed the soul-absorbing pill could hear the ringing of the bell. Yi Xian walked out with a dazed expression. Was it not because he was being controlled? "I didn't expect that even the emperor would be killed by you. The real emperor, is he dead or alive?" Yi Xian quickly rushed in front of the emperor and asked coldly. Now the snake demon clan, who was disguised as the emperor, was sure that Yi Xian hadn't been tricked. However, he didn't understand how he'd been exposed, because after refining the soul-absorbing pill, there wouldn't be any obvious signs. How did you find out?" The fake emperor widened his eyes. "You don't need to know that. Let me ask you, where is the real emperor?" Yi Xian grabbed the fake emperor's neck. The fake emperor was only an early-stage supreme being and was weaker than him. Even if he used his hand as a sword, he could easily cut off the fake emperor's head. "Tisk tsk tsk. The real emperor is already dead. I advise you to put me down. Otherwise," the fake emperor snorted. At this moment, his severed hand had mutated. It was indeed the hand of the snake demon clan. Otherwise what? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Could it be that this fake emperor still had a trump card? "Otherwise, I can't guarantee the safety of your family and friends in the general's tomb." The fake emperor's lips suddenly curled up as he said calmly. After hearing this, Yi Xian's body trembled violently. He said in shock, "How did you know?" "You don't need to know that. Anyway, I've already sent people to the general's tomb to capture your family and friends. If you know what's good for you, obediently consume the soul-absorbing pill and serve the snake demon clan," the fake emperor said directly. Chapter 8:17. Yi Xian's face sank. He didn't expect this fake emperor to know about the general's tomb. This was going to be troublesome. His family and friends were all in the general's tomb. At that moment, he dragged the fake emperor into the house and began to control the clone. At this moment, Yi Xian's clone suddenly opened his eyes in the general's tomb. With a gloomy expression, he rushed to every corner of the general's tomb and started shouting. Yi Chong was practicing with the Wolfang cavalry. When he saw Yi Xian rushing over, he asked in surprise, "Yi Xian, why are you in such a hurry?" "Father, a strong enemy is attacking. Quickly gather at the entrance of the main hall." After Yi Xian's clone finished speaking, he quickly left to inform the others. The general's tomb's defense was good, but the enemy was definitely a supreme martial artist. The general's tomb couldn't stop them. Although there was another exit, the enemy was a supreme martial artist. It wouldn't be a problem to find them. What? Yi Chong was stunned, but Yi Chong had already disappeared. He didn't dare to delay and quickly informed the others to gather at the entrance of the main hall. Very quickly, Yi Xian notified everyone. Not a single one of them left out. Then, he left through the secret passage of the general's tomb. As soon as they left, the general's tomb was attacked by a supreme martial artist. A few supreme martial artists broke through the door of the general's tomb and rushed in. They quickly searched but couldn't find anyone. How did they know? Find them. One of the supreme snake charms growled. In order to capture Yi Xian's family, they had mobilized 3 supreme martial artists. One of them was even a mid-level supreme martial artist. After Yi Xian found out about the crisis in the imperial capital, he rushed over without stopping. Although he made it in time, he hadn't merged with his clone yet. Therefore, his clone was still at 100% physical seal and only had half-formed sword intent. This kind of strength was enough to deal with an early-level supreme martial artist. However, the enemy was a mid-level supreme martial artist. If he didn't leave, he would definitely be captured. Although they left the general's tomb, Yi Xian didn't let them come out. He went up to investigate. This was because he knew that this time, he would have to sacrifice his clone and use it to attract the enemy's attention. A supreme martial artist's senses were very strong. The moment Yi Xian left the underground, His aura was immediately captured by the other party. He's here. Yixian narrowed his eyes and slashed forward. Imperial Heavenly Sword Technique, Imperial Slash. Incomplete sword intent. Because he had not merged with his original body, his doppelganger only had an incomplete sword intent. The three Supreme Beings raised their eyebrows. Then Yixian's attack was dispersed by Supreme Being Shimei, who took the lead. What a guy. Another good seedling who has comprehended sword intent at the level of half Supreme. Supreme Snake Charmer sneered. When he got closer, he realized that Yixian looked somewhat familiar. He took out a portrait, and realized that it was actually Yixian. How could it be this brat? Wasn't he supposed to be at the border? A leopard man Supreme Being couldn't help but ask. No, it's just that they look the same. He should be that brat's twin brother. Capture him and make him eat a soul-absorbing pill, Supreme Snake Charmer said, and immediately rushed to Yixian's side at lightning speed. Then he slapped Yixian's shoulder. Although Yixian really wanted to escape, his family and friends were all under his feet. Moreover, he couldn't escape. Who are you? If you dare to touch me, my brother will definitely not spare you, Yixian's doppelganger shouted. As expected, you are that brat's twin brother. I didn't expect that both of you would comprehend sword intent at the level of half Supreme. Not bad. Supreme Snake Charmer took out a soul-absorbing pill and forced Yixian to swallow it. However, Yixian had the bloodline of the divine tree of life in his body, so he was immune to the soul-absorbing pill. Ding! Supreme Snake Charmer took out a silver bell and shook it, but Yixian didn't have any reaction. Strange, the soul-absorbing pill is useless against this brat. A leopard man Supreme Being said in astonishment. Although I don't know why, this brat isn't even a Supreme Being. Just ask the shamans of the Fox Charmer to charm him, Supreme Snake Charmer said, and directly took Yixian away. Their goal this time was to capture Yixian's family, and use them to threaten Yixian. Unexpectedly, they ran into Yixian's genius younger brother. Meanwhile, in the imperial capital. Damn it, my doppelganger was captured. Yixian cursed in his heart. He turned his head and asked, You want to use my family to threaten me? Hehe, as long as you obediently submit to my Snake Charmer clan, your family will be safe. The fake emperor grinned. He didn't know that the three Supreme Beings had only captured Yixian's younger brother. He also didn't know that Yixian's family and friends had already passed through the desert of death and returned to the eastern continent. As for the Great Wilderness, there was still that strange formation laid down by that mysterious powerhouse, old immortal Tianju. Therefore, Qinghua and the others could only go to the eastern continent through the sea. In short, they had dodged a calamity. When Yixian heard the fake emperor's words, he snorted coldly and said, In that case, you can go to hell. Rip. With a crisp sound, Yixian cut off the fake emperor's head. Then Yixian put away the fake emperor's body and went to look for the retired emperor. When the retired emperor heard that his son had died, he was stunned for a moment. Then he sighed repeatedly. Yixian hesitated because the crisis of the Sunflame imperial family was not over yet. He didn't know if the 3-second tribulation Supreme Beings would come again. However, his doppelganger had been captured, and it seemed like it was going to leave the Sunflame imperial court. He had to save it. Now, Yixian only had 1 advancement point. He still needed 4 more advancement points to condense his second doppelganger. Moreover, if he had 5 advancement points, why would he need to condense a third doppelganger? He might as well directly put them on the fusion stage strength. 5 advancement points could increase the strength of the fusion stage by 50%. Therefore, this doppelganger must not die. Yixian, go ahead. Our Sunflame Imperial family still has the Sunflame Great Array that has been sealed for a long time. Even if they come again, we can still hold them off, the retired emperor said to Yixian. In that case, Yixian did not argue. He had to save his doppelganger. Immediately, he left the imperial capital. His doppelganger and his doppelganger could share vision. He knew everything that his doppelganger saw, so he knew the other party's escape route. However, he didn't expect that the 3 Supreme Beings would suddenly knock his doppelganger unconscious. As a result, he lost track of the other party's whereabouts. F***ck, this is bad. Where are they going to leave the Sunflame Imperial Court? Yixian couldn't help but curse. The Sun Flame Imperial Court was some distance away from the Fox Charm Imperial Court. Therefore, he didn't think that the other party would capture his doppelganger and bring him to the Fox Charm Imperial Court. Chapter 8:18. Now Yixian understood why he was so important. It was because true geniuses only comprehended sword intent when they were half a step into the sovereign realm. If such a genius were to break through to the sovereign realm, their sword intent would increase faster than others. Thus, these outsiders wanted to control Yixian and nurture him into a super battle force in the future. There are many sacred dynasties around the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty, the Great Yuan Sacred Dynasty, the Raging Flame Sacred Dynasty, the Wild Leopard Sacred Dynasty. Yixian took out a map and looked at it. Could it be that those three want to go through the First Heaven Prison and head to the Heavenly Bow Sacred Dynasty? The Heavenly Bow Sacred Dynasty was on the other side of the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's First Heaven Prison. Its strength was similar to the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty's. Yixian guessed because the three Supremes were heading in the direction of one of the entrances to the First Heaven Prison. I'm just trying my best. I hope they aren't too far away, Yixian said to himself as he headed toward the First Heaven Prison. The First Heaven Prison was filled with battles between mid-level and high-level half-step Supremes. However, this place was too low-level for him. The reason why his clone had been knocked unconscious was because he had spoken too much, which annoyed the three alien paragons. Unfortunately, his clone didn't manage to find out where the three Supremes were heading. Fortunately, his clone woke up a day later. When he saw the red providence above the three Supremes' heads, he knew that his guess was half right. The three Supremes were indeed trying to leave the Sunflame Sacred Dynasty through the Heaven Prison. However, he didn't know which Heaven Prison they were heading to. Senior, where are we going? Yixian, who was being held in Supremacy Snake Charm's hand, asked politely. Humph, you're in a better mood now, aren't you? Supremacy Snake Charm snorted coldly. You'll find out soon enough. Yixian's clone raised his eyebrows and immediately knew. Could it be that the supreme expert of the Fox Charm clan was in the Heavenly Prison? Senior, which Heaven Prison are we in? Yixian's clone asked hastily. At the same time, he realized that only Supremacy Snake Charm was there. The other two leopard men weren't there. Number 1. After Sovereign Snake Charm finished speaking, she brought Yixian and landed in a deep mountain. Then he loudly shouted, Lord Fox! Come in. A woman's voice came from inside. Then Supremacy Snake Charm led Yixian inside. In the end, they stopped in front of a small wooden house. There was another figure standing in front of the wooden house. Yixian took a closer look and realized that it was a female Supreme of the Foxes. She had the body of a human, but she had fox ears and a tail. She didn't look very old, probably under 30 years old. The Fox Charm clan was the clan that was the closest to humans among all the beast clans. At the same time, their tribe had countless handsome men and beautiful women. The Fox Charm race's supremacy in front of him was a peerless beauty. Her figure was enough to drive any man crazy. What is it? The supremacy of the Foxes turned around and asked. Lord Fox, I've captured a human with great potential. Please use your charm on him and make him recognize me as his master. Supremacy Snake Charm said. Oh, a human with great potential? Supremacy Snake Charm narrowed her eyes. She sensed that Yixian was only a half-step supremacy. How could such a person be recognized? Has this human comprehended incomplete sword intent? Supremacy Snake Charm asked. Supremacy Snake Charm's heart trembled. She nodded and said, Yes, Lord Fox. He has comprehended sword intent. As long as Lord Fox is willing to help, the benefits will definitely be. You can leave. I want this human. Supremacy Snake Charm didn't wait for him to finish speaking. Supremacy Snake Charm's body trembled violently. She asked in horror. Lord Fox, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't leave, then die. Supremacy Snake Charm said coldly. You! Supremacy Snake Charm was at a loss for words. They had found a human genius with great difficulty. They wanted to control him, but the supremacy of the Foxes snatched him away. He was only a mid-stage First Tribulation Supremacy, while Supremacy Snake Charm was a Second Tribulation Supremacy. He didn't have the strength to fight back. Supremacy Snake Charm immediately turned around and left. At the same time, she was thinking about how to deal with the experts of the foxes. Yixian's face was gloomy as he watched Supremacy Snake Charm leave. At this moment, he felt like he was a piece of merchandise. After Supremacy Snake Charm left, Supremacy Snake Charm walked in front of Yixian. She stretched out her hands and pressed on the head of Yixian's clone. "Look into my eyes." Supremacy Snake Charm's eyes suddenly changed. They turned pink. At the same time, a strange energy entered Yixian's eyes. Damn it! Yixian cursed in his heart. The foxes were born with the ability to charm others. They could control other races. Yixian's clone's realm was too low. He might be controlled. If the charm succeeded, Yixian didn't know if the clone would still listen to his orders. Fortunately, the devouring system was very powerful. The charm didn't work on him. How is this possible? Why didn't it work? Supremacy Snake Charm was shocked. Yixian's clone didn't say anything else. He was afraid that he would anger the other party and kill him. Supremacy Snake Charm didn't believe it. She tried again, but it still didn't work. Damn it! Kid, what kind of ability do you have? How could you resist my charm? Supremacy Snake Charm said in shock. How would I know? Yixian said coldly. Supremacy Snake Charm couldn't be bothered with Yixian. After thinking for a while, she muttered, "It seems that I can only hand you over to that old man." This was the first time such a situation had occurred. However, she couldn't find anything strange about Yixian. She could only choose to give up. Old man? Motherfucker. Yixian's clone cursed in his heart. At this time, his main body had just entered Heaven's Prison number 1, and was searching every inch of the place. At this time, Yixian's clone suddenly took out a map and said, "Senior, may I ask where we are now?" Unexpectedly, Supremacy Snake Charm didn't say anything. She directly slapped him on the top of his head and said in a low voice, "You talk too much." Originally, she thought that she could get a half-step supreme human genius who comprehended sword intent. She didn't expect that she couldn't charm him. Therefore, she could only hand him over to a stronger fox charm expert. Yixian was also drunk. His clone had fainted again. This meant that he had lost his target again. It seemed that he could only find Supremacy Snake Charm, capture her and ask for her location. I hope she doesn't leave Heaven's Prison number 1. Yixian's main body thought to himself. Now that his doppelganger had been knocked unconscious, he had no way of knowing where the supreme being of the Fox Charm clan was. However, he could compare the time his doppelganger had taken with the supreme being Snake Charm's speed. The devouring system had already copied a map of Heaven's Prison number 1. He started to search according to the 2 data.